Hey everyone, it's Jack, Adam and Sam from Cultaholic.com here with, well, a kind of a special edition of, is it a podcast? What is it? It's a one-off.
It's a discussion. It's a round table.
It is, because last night, of course, we learned the very sad news that Defiant Wrestling, formerly known as WCPW, a promotion very dear to our hearts because we all worked there from the start, that shut its doors for the last time. And we're just going to do this video where we basically, it's kind of a loose history of our time at the promotion, but also our favorite moments from both the show itself and behind the scenes, and just reminiscing generally and celebrating what was a crazy, frustrating, but brilliant time of our careers as well, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and I think that's important to get across that although we sometimes had gripes with various bits, for the most part, 99% of it, we had a tremendous time.
It was really fun.
It was really fun. I think we all learned a lot as well.
And even given like the times where things were stressful or bad or everybody was heated and we all fell out or we all made up or whatever, like I think we wouldn't change any of it.
No.
If we went back and did it again.
Yeah.
We all learned a lot.
It was fantastic. I think before we begin, we all want to give a massive thank you to everyone who was ever involved with it, from wrestlers and we're going to mention a lot of people by name in this probably, but we will forget some people because there's just so many people involved, from wrestlers to referees, commentary, ring announcers, people behind the scenes, crew, photographers, everyone involved with the promotion, and everyone who ever came to a show as well. It's just really, really good time.
That's been the nicest thing about this, is the all of these tweets have been going up, and it's just so clear how much like WCPW meant to a lot of people and how many people made friends. There's a guy called John who literally met his fiance, possibly wife now.
Not sure.
But like he got engaged because of WCPW, and he met his fiance or now wife there, and that's like really, really cool. And we had like a great time. But you watch back some of those earlier shows and the later ones as well, and the fan investment and the passion that was there was indescribable.
Yeah.
It felt like we were doing something really special. It felt special. It was a very interesting time, not just in British wrestling, but in indie wrestling as a whole. And WCPW was really sort of, for a brief period, at the forefront of
It's
that.
crazy that we were part of it, and it's crazy to think. I felt quite sad last night when I learned the news, but also kind of weirdly happy at the same time because people were sharing all their favorite memories of it and pictures and everything. And I just remember thinking like, wow, we were part of something that is going to sort of be remembered in British wrestling, which is crazy.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. Yeah. So we'll start off with the kind of the preamble, sort of the prelude to the promotion starting. Actually, you know what? No, I want to first clarify what our roles were in the promotion. So we'll start with you, Adam, because contrary to popular belief, you were only the kayfabe owner.
That's
of
not
WCPW.
true. I was in fact your WhatCulture Pro Wrestling general manager, and no, I wasn't. So I was involved in creative meetings, but also on show days. I was the talkback to commentary, so I would convey information to commentary regarding storylines. Basically, the sort of audio story that they want to tell, I would assist them with that. So what happened on previous episodes? So, hey, this is relevant because on the last episode of Loaded, X did this. So there was that, and also like timing of VT, so we would run external videos and all that sort of stuff, so I'd count them in there. And I was also an on-screen character in the dastardly heel Adam Pacitti, which is a different character to Adam.
Started off as a babyface as
Started
well.
off as a babyface, a very bad one, and then progressed, and we'll get to that in a bit.
Sam, your role?
I started off as camera guy and editor. I was one of the ringside camera operators at the very first tapings, and then I would edit all of the footage, that was a learning curve and a half. And then as things progressed, I became sort of the live direct-to-vision mixer type guy. I would sort of sit with all the cameras linked into this box called a vMix, and I had a control panel where I could select all the cameras. I could throw the feed to VT, and I was sort of responsible for, I guess, putting the stuff you saw in the order you saw it.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I had to work closely with Adam, obviously, to be like, we've got VT coming up.
I was kind of a, no pun intended, a bit of a jack of all trades. Oh, pun very much intended. I was an on-screen character. I was kind of a manager at first. We'll get onto that. I was sort of a loose sort of assistant GM for various GMs. I was also backstage, off camera. I was kind of just a general sort of runner backstage a lot of the time. Did interviews with people and kind of made myself useful wherever I could, I guess.
And I think all of us did that. Like, if there's
Oh,
something
yeah,
you needed
absolutely.
doing,
Yeah,
there
of
was
course.
no, it wasn't like, hey, these chairs needs putting out, hey,
Jack.
that's your job. It's just like
No.
everybody pile in and do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's also fair to say that Jack did everything, because as part of a series called Learning the Ropes, you literally did do anything. You did commentary, you did ring bell, ring announcing, sorry.
The
Were you
ring
ever
bell
a ref?
episode was a top one. I was an impromptu ref. I had to step in when the ref got bumped.
Yes.
Yes, and I counted way too fast.
Oh, yeah.
But it made
Yeah.
it made the wrestlers look really strong though, because they were kicking out on one from everything. So yes, let's go into, I guess, the preamble of before it really started. So it was kind of revealed to us that it was going to begin around the time we got back from Dallas. You'd returned to the channel, and it seemed as though everything was on the cusp. The YouTube channel, WhatCulture, was about to explode. It was really kind of picking up a lot of steam. And suddenly we were kind of hit with this news. Hey, we're going to start our own wrestling promotion. What, as honestly as we can be, what were your initial thoughts when this news hit?
Given that like we'd just come back from WrestleCon, and I think the Dallas trip was weird for us in a lot of ways, mainly because like it was the first time we'd ever get like stopped, and it was like people are watching what we do.
It was proper overwhelming.
I think we realized at that point that we had an actual audience. They weren't just numbers.
Yeah.
And they were people that would take what you were doing on board. And we were at WrestleCon, and I remember seeing sort of for the first time how these things sort of work. Like you have to, wrestling's, I guess, an industry where you have to pay your dues. And I think that my initial thought was, but none of us are wrestlers
Right.
or have been involved in a promotion
Speak for
before.
yourself.
But is it going to be like a case of would we be shunned for it?
Right.
Would it be like that? I got really nervous
Yeah.
about that.
Adam?
Yeah, I feel the same as Sam, in that it is something where you have to pay your dues. And we saw a lot of criticism when the release video was launched. I remember people being generally excited, but there were maybe 5% of people on social media and the YouTube comments who were just saying, it's just like, well, this is ridiculous. You're a YouTube channel, you dick about with a cardboard belt and all that sort of stuff.
And to a degree, I saw their point.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
I mean, one thing that I was very surprised at as when we started were just how kind of willing and accepting the wrestlers were to just go with it. I thought we'd be in for a lot more kind of unwillingness to be helpful.
You were expecting a poo in your bag or
I was
something.
I was expecting a lot of resistance from the wrestlers because we weren't proper industry in the business guys.
Yeah.
But there was almost none of that. I can't think of any
can't
really.
think of
They were
anyone
so
No.
helpful and willing to just help make the show as good as it was. A big part of that, we have to mention James Dixon, who was the kind of the, what was his role, man?
I don't know. Is he the head booker? He was
He
the
was
talent
the head
liaison
booker
for
and
sure.
talent
I
liaison.
think he was sort of the de facto head of creative. He did a lot of stuff though.
He was the crucial bridge as well between us, the YouTube guys, and the talent. And
Yeah.
without that, I think it would have been a far, far trickier prospect. Just because he had the respect of everybody involved, because he'd been a wrestler himself. He'd also ran promotions himself. So we needed him on board, definitely. And we can't really give him enough credit. When I heard the news, I was also skeptical. But in hindsight, I was just saying this to Sam off camera, I've learned so much from the promotion that I would never have known about just wrestling generally.
100%,
Seeing how
yeah.
it's all put together. Now, before the first ever taping, which we will get onto in just a second, we did shoot some brief angles in the WhatCulture office with the likes of Gio Henry, Big Damo, and Rampage. The first storyline was that Adam Blump was Rampage's manager. I was going to manage someone else, and it was kind of Henry and Damo. Dixon described me as the prettiest girl at the dance. They were fighting over my affections in a rough sort of wrestler way. Do you remember anything particular about those early in-office shoots?
I remember Damo, now Killian Dane. I remember him turning up and being the nicest guy in the world, despite
so nice.
like being super intimidating to look at. And he was just like really sound. He was so receptive to everything. And it was like, we're gonna shoot some promo stuff. I think it was around that time we did some I think they were like camera tests. It was just like photographs of people, so we knew like we had those things on file and everything. And we did I think it's the vignette where he comes looking for you after Henry's been caught in you, and he turns up to the office in full ring gear.
Yeah.
And so when he was in the office and we're all just talking and stuff, he was just in like a tracksuit, just normal clothes.
Yeah.
And so I'll just get into my gear. And so we took all the photos, and it was like, right, let's shoot. And we put him in the lift of this building to shoot the opening shot of him coming out the lift. But the building we were in has like serious businesses in it. Like
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there were like law firms and
Yeah.
accountancy firms and like architectural companies.
Call centers, normal places.
Like, but we just put this like giant, like this giant.
The hairiest
guy,
man in the
yeah.
world as well, all
Like-
oiled up.
it, just in the lift, and it was like you just go down a floor and come back up, and it was like and we had to keep shooting that because I think the focus kept blowing.
Right.
So we shot it a few times anyway for safety. And
Scared some
it
people.
was just that moment of like people coming out the other office and sort of seeing it, and it's like, yeah, I'll never ever forget that.
I remember that was the first time I realized I'd been a fan of Gio Henry before I'd met him because of his songs and stuff.
Yeah.
This was the first time I realized I had like an open close view of a charismatic wrestler's charisma in action live in front of you. He just turned it on. He'd be talking normally, very polite, and then the camera would roll and he'd just be like, let me get one thing straight and just go into it. And I was like, this is crazy how they, like, certain wrestlers, some are better at it than others, but just flip into their characters immediately. And it was pretty intense to see, but it was really fun as well. They fought over Monopoly too. Park Lane! Then we had our first tapings in a leaky warehouse in Byker, an area of
Holt's
Newcastle,
Yard, yeah.
which can be described, I think, as gritty. A gritty area of Newcastle upon Tyne.
It's like the Shane Meadows of locations. The Shane Meadows film of locations.
This is Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not in the middle of town. It's slightly off the beaten track, which made me think
It's a bit of a difficult place to get to.
no one's going to turn up. We're
Yeah.
going to set up, we're going to stand there and wait for a queue, and no one's going to show. But they did, which was amazing. If you came to one of those first set of tapings, especially the matinee.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wasn't it the same time as a World Cup game?
That
Euros,
was
Euros
yeah.
2016.
We
It was a
sort of- we had
Saturday
a break
morning, if
for
I
that
remember
game.
correctly. A Saturday morning. It's like they didn't announce it previously, so I think it was like Ryan, the ring announcer at the time, was just like, by the way, if you want to come back for some wrestling, there's some wrestling tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
during the footy.
I think it was weekday.
Was it weekday?
I think
It
might have been a
might have
weekday.
been.
But it was
It
one of
was
those
early,
things
yeah,
where
because people were at work. That
we
was
were
it,
quite
yeah.
terrified, and I think the atmosphere though was unreal. Especially, I can't remember who Joe Coffey faced. It might have been Primate, where they had they went through the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And it was just amazing.
Yes.
Like it was really cool.
It was also kind of, I think, it kind of gave it a distinctive feel. There were a lot of errors we made with the first show, the green screen, of course. But I think we should now go through just the list of the WCPW originals, just to give them proper credit. So we have Martin Kirby, of course, who are going to become like the heart of WCPW, I think it's fair to say. Ligero, Damo, with me as his manager, Rampage with Blump as his manager, Joe Henry, Primate with Susie as his manager. Remember
Yes,
that?
Susie,
Yeah.
if you're watching.
Joseph Connors, of course, Joe Coffey, Prospect with James R. Kennedy as their manager, who would later become color commentary, Gabriel Kidd, Prince Amin, Drake, Noam Dar, and of course Jay Lethal. Just Jay Lethal's there as
It's
well.
nuts, isn't it? Because
Yep.
Jay Lethal wasn't meant to be there. This was organised maybe 2 weeks beforehand.
Was he not?
Oh no! They weren't going to do it at the start, and then they realised it's like, hey, if you've got some money, you can get pretty much whatever you want if they're independent. And Ring of Honor were generous enough to say, hey, yeah, you can have Lethal, and he can come over and defend the Ring of Honor title as well. So it was a 3-way match, wasn't it? It was a triple threat for the Ring of Honor title, and immediately the eyes that you put on your product just by having that was really, really cool. And obviously it went from Jay Lethal to all of these other people.
He had a match with Noam Dar.
He had a singles with Noam Dar, and then
there
the
was a
next
triple
day
threat.
it was
Oh, was
the triple
there?
threat for the Ring of Honor title.
The thing that
I
I
say
think
Liggs, maybe?
I think it was Liggs, yeah. But the thing I think that Jay brought to it that not a lot of people will realise is that when we were shooting promos in this back room against a green screen, it was such a small dressing room area. Like there was literally a couch. There was maybe around 30 square feet of space,
It wasn't
including a
much.
little bit outside.
Yeah.
And so everybody was on top of each other, and we're shooting all the promos there. And as we're shooting promos, Jay was just like chipping in and saying, you should say this, you should do that. This is how you should like say that, and you can set up to that through that. And he sort of opened a lot of our eyes, I think, to how to shoot vignettes and shoot promos and stuff like that.
I went out and did my first bit. It wasn't for a match. I think it was just a segment where me and Big Damo came and like ran off Rampage and Blompier. Obviously, I went after Rampage. No, and when I got to the back, and it really sort of, he was the nicest guy, Lethal, full of advice though. And I remember feeling crap about myself. He didn't mean to make me feel crap about myself. He just immediately, when I got through the curtain, he collared me and went, everything needs to be bigger. Every motion you make, every expression needs to be bigger. And I remember like going, yeah, thanks very much. Like, thanks for the advice. And then I was like a bit like, oh man. And then Dixon went, it's the Ring of Honor World Champion just giving you advice. And I was like, yeah, that is pretty decent, to be fair. And he was totally right as well. And I think we all did, or certainly me and you had more on-camera stuff to do, learned that as it went on.
Oh, 100%. We'll talk more about it, I'm sure, but I was really bad at the start.
I don't think you were.
I don't know. I feel really... Because I went through the curtain on the first show with the cardboard belt. The whole thing's ludicrous. And I remember coming backstage and somebody told me that one of the wrestlers, I think it was Noam Dar.
It was me, I told you.
An American accent. They went, well, that kid's over.
This kid's over, bro.
And
because they were chanting Adam Pacitti.
Oh, Adam Pacitti.
It was
which
crazy.
was ludicrous. And I got out there and I realised, hey, I probably should have thought about what I was going to say here. And that was a real turning point.
Or call it in the ring.
Yeah, it was just like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to come out here, I'm going to welcome everyone. But this is mental. I've been away for several months and thrown into this thing, which is just so crazy.
Yeah.
We'd never really performed in front of a live crowd at all. You'd done some stuff in Dallas. I'd done some
Casual
stuff at NXT in London in front of a small crowd. But this is a completely different kettle of fish.
And it's not performing.
Yeah.
And these are people that have paid to be there.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, that was it was something so different to what we're used to.
Yes.
And I realised very quickly that I needed to get better.
It all built up to Built to Destroy, the first pay-per-view, I guess we'll call it.
Can we start doing the themes for all of these? Do you remember?
Built to Destroy.
Yeah.
No, that's loaded.
What was
Built to Destroy!
It was a rowdy atmosphere. I remember the crowd were hot for it. And there was various matches. There was that street fight between Coffee and Primate, which was really good. It all built. I think that's when it was Lethal and Dar, maybe, or Lethal and Ligero.
That was the triple threat.
That was right.
I think it was a triple threat. It was a world title match. Ring on.
Obviously, Lethal retained. But the main event was Damo versus Rampage. First time I'd managed. Oh no, I'd managed Henry and Damo the night before when I did the fast count. And then it was the main event, and I remember one of the first spots. They whip each other into the corner or something. Rampage hits the ground, and I'm on the side of the ring that he's landed on, and he's not selling. He just goes, crap. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, what's happened here? It was just like a twinge or something, but I thought in my head at the time, I was like, he's ballsed up, he's injured, I don't know what to do. Also, they're both really heavy, big lads. Whenever they hit the ropes, the ring would, like, jump slightly, and I was like, oh, my God.
It moved
The
almost a
ring-
foot after that first taping.
It was crazy. And it being at ringside with a camera, and you just feel it. And especially when people would hit the ropes and the ring would move and it would move into you, and you've got like a camera with a box on the front, like a matte box, and it would just jut into the box. And obviously it's not the guy's fault.
No.
But you just sort of like, and you get thrown back almost into the crowd.
Because it doesn't feel like reality when you're looking through that lens.
No,
you're in your own world,
distance,
aren't you?
because you're looking at this little thing there. So
Yeah.
you're seeing this distance, which is why a lot of times I would then from that point use the screen as best I could, because at least then you had a gauge of the actual distance.
You can see what's happening around you, I guess.
Yeah,
as well.
you've got your peripheral vision, which is great.
That all ended with the first ever swerve in WCPW history, the double turn in the main event with Blump betraying Rampage and siding with Damo, who then attacked both me and you.
Yes.
And the ref. Two refs, maybe. And what did he hit you with? A clothesline? A lariat?
The belt. He had the belt at the time. My glasses were broken, but they were actually broken before that match happened. So I went out there with cracked glasses.
Gimmicked glasses.
No, these were my legit glasses. They cost like £200 or something like that. And Blompier and I were filming a promo backstage, and it was one where we sort of square off, I guess. It was eye to eye. He was doing the cocky sort of like, well, good luck, mate. And then he hesitates, and then he turns around and he slaps me. My glasses go flying to the floor, just crack immediately. Like the lens is. So when I went out there, I was like, oh God, I hope people don't see that my glasses are already broken, because I know I'm going to be hit in the face by Damo. So he clobbered me with a belt. It really
actually hit you?
Oh, legit, yeah. Because
Had to look good.
understandably,
Oh, it had to look
that's
good.
the thing.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we didn't know how to sell or anything.
Yeah.
I think they were a little bit more stiff quite often. Always safe.
Yeah, absolutely. But you finish yours and I'll talk about how
Sure.
my experience of being hit for the first time.
And so he hit me with it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that really hurt. My glasses go flying across the ring, and there's this great shot from the end of the thing where my glasses are on the table like so. You can clearly see not the table, on the mat,
canvas,
on
yeah.
the canvas, with a crack in them, while I'm laid down behind it. You can just about see Damo like posing with the belt. It was a really, really great
good.
visual.
Big shout out to both Ollie Antoni and all the photographers we had. They were
amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Then I had to, I think this was before you maybe, but I had to also take a bump, not take a bump, but take a move. The plan was that he was going to grab me and sling me into the turnbuckle, and I'd put my arms up, and I was taught that if I put my arms up, it'll be fine. My arms will go over the top rope, and I'll just go goosh and then hit the floor. I was so nervous. I thought I was going to break my neck or something. And I got in the ring and I approached him from the wrong angle. Just a little thing like that. And he wasn't going to be able to turn and throw me into the turnbuckle, the correct one. So he just punched me in the face. But it felt so weird because there's this huge guy just going, and it just felt like that. It was crazy. I don't know how he did it.
Oh, it was that soft. It was a light.
Oh,
thing.
it was so
Really?
soft.
Who was this from? Sorry,
Damo.
Right, okay.
Didn't hurt. It just felt like I'd clunked it on something.
Didn't
it
give
was
me
amazing.
the same special treatment. Unfortunately.
I think he must have improvised. He thought he's in the wrong place. Oh, gosh. And then I hated the way I sold it, but I remember Liam Slater saying, "Nah, you went down like a boxer, like dazed." So I accidentally sort of did all right. But
Yeah,
I beat myself up a little bit about it when it went online after
I remember,
that.
yeah, a few comments were said in the
Yeah.
comment. It was just like Jack sold that horribly, but I think actually some of those
didn't know it was
dodgy
coming.
sells, yeah, it added to it as well
Right.
because we're not wrestlers, and then it looks like we've been legit punched.
If I just gone like flat back, but over the top rope, whoa, with Shawn Michaels. And then from then on, things just really took off very fast. The next shows were in the O2
Hold
Academy.
on. We need to give a special shout out to Jusen's Plant Hire.
What?
For giving us for where we needed a hard cam position, and because we're in this warehouse, there wasn't any place with real leverage you could put it safely. So we had to hire scaffolding. And we thought, we'll hire the scaffold and they'll build it. Nope, they turned up and just left it, obviously, 'cause that's what their job is, to bring it. So we had to really quickly, on the day of the first show, I think, learn how to build scaffolding.
Amazing.
And it took Simon Corby, massive shout out to Simon Corby.
Yeah.
He was just sort of watching us struggle with it, knowing he could do it in about 10 minutes. And he just sort of like, let us just be idiots. And then just came along and went, do that, done. Right, let's crack on.
We're so punk rock, so DIY. With the backing of a big YouTube channel. Now, then things really rapidly took off. We then ran our next shows in the O2 Academy. Sam, I wanted to know what you thought about that, because for me personally, as a teenager, I always got to gigs in the Academy. Yeah. It was insane for me doing a show in there.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Like, I properly loved that venue. It's somewhere I've had some of the best live music experiences of my life, and getting to run a show there was amazing. The one thing was that I didn't realise backstage in a venue was quite that normal and like dingy, because it's like sort of it's just long corridors with dressing rooms, and all the dressing rooms, of course, because it's an old building, they're all small. Yeah. And it's like you sort of walk in the back and it's like, oh, what's it going to be like? And it's like, no, there's just some stairs to the stage. Yeah, there's 4 dressing rooms, a few bathrooms and showers, and that's it. One thing I always remember about that venue is going. Because there was the main corridor ran actually underneath the venue, underneath the stage, and if there was the people taking bumps in the ring, the show was on at the time, you could hear it through the ceiling going like. Yeah. I just liked it. I thought it was quite a cool sort of. It made everything feel live and exciting, even when we were backstage doing nothing. Those shows. That first run of tapings as well, there were some big developments in the promotion. There was, of course, many people's favourite match in the entirety of WCPW, Kirby versus Ospreay 1, which Kirby won.
Which was huge.
Oh,
massive, because Will was over in New Japan at the time. Everyone thought, no, he can't.
His stock was rising quickly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Kirby had previously been booked in comedy matches. He'd been doing stuff with Ligero. Those two have been wrestling forever. And their match at Built to Destroy was a thing. It was a comedy match. A comedy match where you lose your mask, you have to wear a dress or something like that. And then he's booked in this match with Will Ospreay. And it was absolutely phenomenal, and it was an organic face turn, whether it was intended or not, which it wasn't for Martin Kirby. Everyone respected him. Will cut an amazing promo at the top of the ramp afterwards, just saying, respect that guy in the ring, because he's that great. Good.
Yeah. I always remember, I was watching from that balcony at the top of the Academy, which we never let Primate jump off, even though he wanted to do so.
Always wanted to jump off it.
Oh, fancy that.
It's only 28 feet.
We'd like to run future shows in the Academy. He did jump off the fire exit at one point, which is a big moment I remember. Yeah. But the Kirby Ospreay thing, I remember at the start, everyone's cheering for Ospreay. He's like the golden boy, the biggest thing in British wrestling at the minute. And there's a small contingent of fans, I remember, from Yorkshire, who were just chanting Yorkshire and chanting for Kirby. And there was like a little pocket of them and the rest of the crowd. There's some interplay between them and the rest of the crowd. And gradually, like Rocky IV, just spread as Kirby was like surviving more and more moves. And then he got the pinfall, which I think Will hit an Oscutter, but Kirby turned and caught him, did a backslide. And the place just went up, and it was amazing. I think it might be my favourite match.
It's sort of the birth of our biggest star.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Like Kirby became obviously the fan favourite, and it never let up from that point.
It was really interesting that James Dixon, a guy that we'll probably talk about quite a lot throughout this thing, the head book of the talent liaison guy, he said before
He
that match,
trained
before it
Kirby.
even happened. Yeah, he did train Kirby. He said at the beginning, I remember going, Kirby's going to be the guy that gets over. He's just that.
Did he say that?
Yeah, and he did.
He was
And
right.
It was organic as well, which
Yeah.
is even better.
We also had the start of the women's division. We only had 2 women at the start, but look at where they are now. Nixon Newell, who is now, of course, Tegan Knox in NXT. And she's just, I think, returning from injury as well, which is great.
Just came back
Yep.
on the house show circuit now.
And Bea Priestley, who is the
She's
top
currently
champion in
Bea
Stardom.
Priestley in Stardom, yes.
Yeah, she's still and she also came out on the Fight for the Fallen pre-show and got a huge reaction.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see how far they've both gone. I mean, they were both good, but man, they've really both taken off.
Bea Priestley especially, like if there's an award for most improved,
Yes.
she just came leaps and bounds. She's incredible.
She-
Now, she was always good.
I
but
didn't
She's so good.
I
now.
didn't realize how a lot of the wrestlers from the roster have been tweeting like their thanks to the promotion and stuff. She's come across like so grateful.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really sweet because
Lovely person.
Oh, she's fantastic as well. I mean, so many of them are. So many.
Yeah,
of them are great people.
yeah, 100%.
But that was the start of the women's division. We also had Aaron Stevens, our first big import, I guess, fresh from WWE, which I think shocked a lot of people.
Super fresh.
Yeah. And also the likes of Doug Williams coming in, Moss and Slater, who become one of the big tag teams of the tag team division. Grado as well. There was kind of a mixed bag. It was a good mixture of comedy, hardcore guys, main event, charisma, that sort of thing. It was. I was amazed how quickly it took off, to be honest.
Oh, totally. Just to go to Aaron Stevens again. So he was Damian Sandow,
Yes.
obviously, in WWE. And he was obviously burned out with wrestling. You can understand why he was upset following the treatment that he got in WWE,
Yeah.
that he was never really properly utilised. This is when he was hot as
They
hell,
never
because
pulled the
people-
trigger on it.
No, yeah, people
Yeah.
were pissed off because he'd lost the money in the bank cash and all that sort of stuff. And they'd never taken advantage of it. And that time, his stuff with The Miz was amazing as well.
Yes.
So he came in and he was obviously like a bit burned out with wrestling, not really into it. And I remember him coming back through the curtain and saying, "Wow, they were chanting my name because they were chanting Aaron Stevens,
Yes.
not Damian Sandow."
Yes.
And he said that it just reignited a fire in him, and that
Yeah.
was like the power of WCPW at this point because fans were so rabid, they were so passionate that like you could somebody who'd been in the WWE, he's performed in front of
Yeah.
20, 30, maybe 40,000 people.
Yeah.
But that was so special to him, and that's
Yes.
so cool.
It was really cool. And all led to Stacked, which had the first title change and another big heel turn from Joseph Connors, who went on maybe my favourite title reign of the promotion, I think.
It's my favourite thing
Yeah.
that we ever did was the turning of Joseph Connors to like this horrible, evil, golem-like character.
Yeah.
Holding of the belt.
He
Just
was
clutching
fantastic.
his title and cheating any way he could to win
If-
and hold on to it. And then the culmination of all of that at Delete, which we'll get onto later. That for me was just the best thing I think we ever did.
If there's anyone, and quite a few of these guys, I think it's fair to say without being too critical, because of the limitations of NXT UK being once a week for 1 hour, a lot of these guys have been underutilized so far who've moved on. And I think Connors is perhaps the biggest loss for them in terms of underutilization. He's
so good.
What a character guy.
His
He's got it all.
promos,
He's
yeah,
got
he
it
does,
all.
and he's not been allowed to properly demonstrate that, and I think it's very frustrating. But he turned on Henry. He was frustrated because of one of my favorite things in the entire promotion's history, the song, the Joe Henry's music.
Oh.
Play Joe Henry's music.
Play Joe Henry's music. Play Joe Henry's music. Yeah.
and Joseph Connors.
and
Shout
Comic
out
Sans.
to Sam
Yeah.
for the
You
edit
did
on that.
So
on the Tron.
on the day of that, Henry came up to me and he's like, "So I've got my bit done. I've got like all of the music, and I'd already made Joe like a 3D logo. I was starting to learn how to do like Element 3D stuff, like really basic. You import a PNG, you make a mask, and you can extrude it and make it look 3D. And I'd done like his logo, and I'd made that all work, and sort of had these sparks raining down. And we never used it initially, I think, because it was just a test. So we used that for the Joe Henry's music part. And then he came over to me and he was like, "I want you to break every single rule of editing." He's like, "I want it to look awful. I want it to look terrible. And it has to fit the music, and you'll know what I mean when you hear it." And so I was like, "Right, we'll go for like just a stock like purpley pink background." But it was like, I think I imported like a PowerPoint template.
Yeah.
And just
I
sort
remember
of
the picture
stuck-
floating. All the text
yeah.
was off the
There was
screen,
some
wasn't
text
it?
on-
Yeah, it was Joseph Connor in a slightly lighter pink Comic Sans. And then it was just...
It was the ugliest thing, and Connors
Yeah.
sold it well because he came out. He's like, "What is
And then
that?"
it was just disappointment in his
He's
eyes.
That followed him for a little bit, I think it's fair to
Yeah.
say. However, his title reign changed things because everybody
Yes.
saw that he's not just like the Joe Henry's mate or whatever you want to call him there. He is an incredible wrestler, and like his character work was some of the best ever in WCPW.
Yes.
So, like, the thing there with that is, like, the chair shot on the heel turn itself
Yeah.
was one of my favorite things. He hits him with the righteous kill. There's a kick out. and then he just launches a chair at Henry. And what you see on TV, or I guess on YouTube, you see the reverse angle shot. So you see him standing tall over Henry, which is like, you know, your standard shot. But on subsequent promos and vignettes during the feud, I think Chris used the wide angle shot from the hard camera, and you just see him launch that chair across the ring, and you see the impact. Henry like just gets his hand up, but he just batters him, and he goes down, and it looked... And then from that point, he's just clutching the belt.
Yeah.
And wherever he is, it's just... And then it miraculously gets a lot bigger at one point.
No, the belt.
It was made better because nobody expected Connors there. Everybody was saying,
No.
I remember people in the
It was a
crowd going, he's
four-way.
there to take the fall.
It was
He's there to take
Rampage, Damo, Henry, and Connors.
Yeah.
Nobody expected Connors.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best things they did with that belt.
We also had the first women's champion crowned at that event. It was Nixon. I can't remember if that was the match or not, where she kicked B's head in the chair.
It was, yeah. That was the finish. That was the finish.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was a street fight specifically, but it was no DQ in some way. And yeah, first women's champion.
Yep.
She's gone on to do amazing things.
She was graciously awarded the belt by General Manager Adam Pacitti.
Oh,
as
I
well.
watched this. I can't watch some of this stuff back. So the announcement video, or the announcement of WCPW, I can't watch back because
Okay.
I was bad. And this is one of the other ones where you just see me in the ring, not really knowing what to do. There's this like incredible wrestler who looks like, I mean, she's really stunning as well. And then I'm there in an ill-fitting suit, like dripping with sweat, not really knowing even how to hand the belt to her. And I seem to remember, and I passed her the belt and I raised her hand or something, and I'm 6'4", and I remember her just being like yanked up. I don't know if it got cut in the end, but she's probably like 5'7", 5'8", or something like that. But I remember her just going like that.
I
and
think
then
you might
looking at
have.
me.
I think you might have worked her height a bit there. She's a bit shorter than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I remember very fondly from these tapings, and there is another instance of you on a microphone during this, it's that we knew we had Kurt Angle, we knew we had
this is one of
Cody,
my
and we
favourite
knew
things
we
ever.
had Bret Hart, but the public didn't know.
Oh.
And so I was tasked with doing a hype video for
that
each.
video.
I think we announced Cody in like a standard means, but
Cody was already announced.
Cody was
Came up
because-
again with Kurt on it.
We announced Cody because you painted my face like Stardust.
Yeah, that
Yes,
was it.
for a video.
And Ross was
Dashing.
But we
Yeah.
wanted Angle and Brett to be like big shock announcements at tapings, and
Yeah.
I think we did it over 2 separate tapings. So when we did the first one, at the second one, people sort of expected another one.
Yeah.
But having to sit and because we were only showing it to a live audience, we utilized like his WWE music. I cut in footage of like American flags, shots of him like winning at the Olympics, but you couldn't see his face, and things like that, and just building and building and building until his music hit.
The
And
pop
I
was
sort of put quotes in from him and about like people needing a hero, and then the crowd went mental. And I remember standing there.
It was a wave, wasn't it? People
waiting.
started getting it in the crowd, and they're just like, no, it can't.
But
It can't be.
I remember being stood there knowing what was coming because
Yeah.
I was on ringside camera, and there is a video out there, I think, of it being announced live, and you can see it.
It's still there. It's called
And I'm
It's
just
True.
like, I'm just waiting,
Yeah.
waiting for it to happen, and the crowd go mental. And I
Yeah.
was like, and the same thing happened with Brett, and it was just like, I loved that. I loved
Yeah.
those moments.
I remember
where-
walking out.
The
following
Bret one had the O Canada on the piano as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember walking out after the Kurt Angle announcement. So his music hits, and people started chanting "You suck."
This was
and then
it.
I had to come out, and all I had to do was say like, "Ladies and gentlemen, coming to WhatCulture Pro Wrestling, October 3rd, the your Olympic hero,
Yeah.
whatever it was, Kurt Angle," and you hear my voice go funny, and I went back because it was the most energetic that I'd ever seen the crowd. I remember coming back through, and I was just like, "Gee, that's the coolest thing I've ever done."
Yeah.
It was and it wasn't my pop; it was
No,
Kurt
Kurt
Angle's
Angle's.
pop, obviously.
But, like-
I almost fainted
But
because
you
it was
got-
just so
you
like
got a
I
second
gave.
cheer because of
Yeah.
that, because you came on and did it, but like.
Nobody expected that.
No.
Because you walked out to that pop, though, you could feel the energy.
Do you think
and
they thought I was Angle?
He's got a bit weedy, hasn't he? But it was just like, yeah, you were obviously so caught up in it. Because if you watch it back now, you are screaming.
I don't remember it.
Screaming.
Yeah.
It's so loud because obviously you're trying to get over the noise. Because we didn't have in-ear monitors. We just sort of were in the noise. There was nothing helping us.
There were also some names who appeared at that taping for the first time. EC3, Pete Dunne, who I think was one of the ones we kind of missed the boat on a little bit.
Can we get a unison one for the next one?
And the next one, if Martin Kirby's the heart of WCPW, this man's the soul. It's Moose. let's be honest, we all got on with Moose. He's a hilarious and great guy.
Oh, he's amazing.
And also a great wrestler.
Yeah.
But one of the most inexplicably over.
Well-
not inexplicable that he was over, but the extent to which he was over.
I cannot remember who it was. It might have been Ryan, because I think Ryan, I think,
Is this
runs a
Ryan
wrestling
ring
promotion.
announcer or Ryan
ring
tag
announcer.
ropes and tag
I think
rope?
Ryan ring announcer. I think he might have had Moose. I think it might have been Ryan, because I think Ryan runs a promotion where he's from.
Target.
And,
Target
he
in
runs
Cardiff- in,
yeah.
Carlisle,
And
yeah.
I think he might have had Moose, because I think it was him who came back and said, good luck getting rid of those.
Yeah, it's going to ruin your show for
Like,
2
it's
months.
going to ruin your show for 2 or 3
Yeah, and it
months.
did.
And
It did
every
ruin
show,
it.
even if Moose wasn't there, it was just Moose on anything.
So like the ref would be counting, like if it was a
One,
what
Moose,
count out, yeah,
two,
one,
Moose.
everyone did it.
And I remember being like at the back of the room or the back of the academy at one point where like the merch table was and stuff in the entrance, and Moose was there as well at his merch table, just filming the crowd doing Moose chants during someone else's match. He also tried to steal my McDonald's chips later on. He was like, "You got any of them fries, Jack?" I was like, "No, Moose." Yeah, it was a bit greedy of me. That was. I remember the night out after that show as well because EC3 grappled with a fan in Trillions, a bar, because the fan challenged him to a grapple, and EC3 won.
Surprise,
Who'd have
surprise.
thunk it, right?
I remember Moose walking in,
God, that
and
looks
the
like
bar
2
all
fridges
going-
sellotaped together.
The
Beats
bar-
a guy in New
And the bar all turned around when Moose walked in, going, "Moose!" Sean McLaughlin goes, "Who's just walked in over there?"
But we were stood. I was stood outside when he walked in, and it was like, "Oh, they've been chanting your name all night." He was like, "Yeah, man, yeah." Walked down, and all we heard from down, because Trillions is like you have to go down.
Yeah,
and
it's
there's
like
2
basement.
open doors, and all we heard was just Moose, Moose, like from the street.
I also now have to mention, I'd like to clear up some horrible untruths about this. My weird storyline after the whole double turn, because I didn't have a client anymore. Damo had gone over to Blumpier's side. I had no storyline. My character was adrift. So what the creative team came up for me was maybe my least favorite thing I've ever had to do. My weird woman chasing storyline where I was a little creep.
It's a shame because you're very good at it, Jack. And I
Oh
don't think
my
you should be- So you approached Jen Louise,
Yes.
Nixon backstage. I remember there
Yeah.
was something with Melina.
Right, so the order, so it was Nixon first. I remember shooting the promo because she was putting I think it might have been just after she won the belt, she was putting it in her bag.
Nice belt.
And I interrupt her. I give her a hat. I was like, "Do you want one of my hats?" Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, "Thanks." She's like, "Oh." Then one with Jen, which was far less awkward because I knew Jen and she's great. And she's not like awkward in the slightest, so it was fine. And then Susie, which was also not awkward because I knew Susie really well. But then Primate chased me off. And then we spent the next, in kayfabe, sort of next 3 weeks running around Newcastle.
Yeah.
To the point when we got to Altrincham, because he saw fans outside, he chased you round.
Around the car park.
Yeah, around in front of the queue.
And I was so knackered. He had to, because we did a big loop of the car park.
It was huge. It's like an ice rink. So.
And he had to keep on thinking of ways to not catch me, like he'd hit a wall or something and like stumble. And I was just like, yeah. And that all culminated in me getting speared when I was trying to give flowers to SoCal Val. But I didn't enjoy doing that storyline. I remember listening to a review once online. I'm really sorry, I can't remember who it was, but it was a YouTube channel who were doing like a podcast style review of WCPW. It was a man and a woman, and
I think I remember
the
this.
woman hated me. She was like, and then of course, I think they were Australian or American or something. She was like, then we've got Jack the Jobber. Oh, the guy's like, now we have another Jack the Jobber promo where he's trying to hit on someone, and she's just like, ugh, God.
Well,
Yeah.
it never intended to lead anywhere. Like it was just pointless.
It led to
stuff.
the spear. Or
Did
was
it?
that just written in
No,
afterwards?
that was just written in afterwards. It was just something. I think some people just thought, hey, that would be funny, get Jack doing that, and essentially it wasn't really in fitting with your character anyway.
Well, it
You
made
were
no
doing a
sense.
sort of awkward thing, but you're not a weird sex pest.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. It's the nicest thing you've ever said.
Not on camera anyway.
Wait.
Yeah, it didn't make much sense.
The Melina
at all.
one got cut because I just insisted upon it being cut.
Yeah, I understand
Really
what
put
you're
my foot down. Where basically I'd like tried to flirt with her and enticed her into this storage cupboard. Tried it on with her, and you could hear inside the storage cupboard her like slapping me and booting me. And it was one of the most surreal moments of my life. Is me and Melina stood in this thing just side by side against a wall. She's just booting the wall, and I'm going, "Ow! Stop it! I'm sorry." And then she comes out and wipes her mouth and goes, "Damn kid!" And I'm just like, "Oh my God, can we not put that in the show, please? Thanks for not putting that in the show." I don't know who wrote it, but you're a dick, whoever you are. This
That was me.
Actually, the next big show was Refuse to Lose. What was the theme?
I refuse to lose.
They're all the same.
Oh.
Fail to destroy,
Yeah.
refuse to lose. It is loaded.
This was our first ever live pay-per-view.
Yes, and it went down without a hit.
And as far as I was aware...
Oh, this was my favourite. Oh, I felt so bad about it.
Should we talk about this and then the show, or the show and then this?
Should we talk about the show and then this?
Right.
Okay.
This show featured the likes of some huge names of this one. Minoru Suzuki, which was insane to get him.
Versus Coffee, I think.
Versus Coffee, a hard-hitting match, of course. We had Cody Rhodes for the first time. And if we hadn't met Cody, I don't really know what... He's been a very crucial, sort of, in a weird way, figure in Cultaholic. Because the contacts we've made through WCPW have, honestly, like, I don't know if we'd have gone to Vegas if we hadn't met Cody through this.
Yeah.
He's always been very helpful towards us.
I'm very loyal to the promotion. He was really great. I think he was like it was near exclusive.
He took that belt all around the
Yeah,
world.
he was defending the internet title all over the place, putting more eyes on WCPW. He was selfless. He was always amazing, and the crowd loved him.
He always sent the crowd home happy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
always.
he did. He would down a beer sometimes in the ring. What a lad. We also had Rampage versus Blump here, one of the oddest matches in... Maybe the oddest match in... It was good.
For what it was, it was what everyone expected, which was just shenanigans after shenanigans, loads of interference, run-ins. Shout out to Blumpier for buying comedy underwear. He had his tighty whities on because he knew those trousers were going to come off. I remember backstage going to him. It's like, you should put like a little skid mark in the thing, so if the trousers do come off, and then at least like there's something for the fans to look at, right? So, and he was like, do you reckon I should? Because he was so like invested in the match and thinking about it. And then he was, oh, just shut up! Like, it was so good.
Afterwards, watching their little, because after wrestling matches, a lot of wrestlers will have like a little debrief with each other. Often it's the more experienced one giving advice to the other one. This one was very different. It was just Rampage, he was totally fine. And Blump here, like he'd run a marathon, being like, oh, thanks very much, man.
That pinfall, like he does... Rampage does like a mini bonsai drop on him for the pinfall. He crosses his arms like that. Just, it's a heavy
When he
man.
put him through the table fell apart before he put him through. So Sean, the ref, had to just go like, just lift the table up. Oh, God.
And the entire thing was being called by Jim Ross and Jim Cornette.
Right.
Which was just crazy, yeah.
There was also one of my favourite moments in WCPW, your heel turn, screwing Martin Kirby.
Yeah.
The glow sticks. How you weren't
one
blinded.
of the best moments.
Glasses, mate.
There were a couple that sort of looked like they were going through.
It was really nice to see yesterday when all of these people were sharing memories of WCPW. A lot of the most upvoted ones and the more regular ones were that heel turn, and I was really proud not just of the heel turn but the character after that. I think I really came into my own. I was really happy with it. Especially because I was so like, I think the plan was to just take me off and get the GM thing off me and not use me anymore. And then we were like, okay, we'll do the heel turn and see how it goes. And then I think I really proved myself. Yes. But as a visual, that was possibly WCPW's greatest visual ever. Those glow sticks, it's insane.
I think it's the moment, or one of few, that'll be the most remembered from WCPW.
Yeah.
It was, so for those who haven't seen
and
it.
And a great match as well.
Fantastic match. Yeah, not just because of the, it's Connor's the heel champion, Kirby, who's had this organic babyface turn. He's about to win. He's about to hit the Zoidberg elbow, which he never, ever hits. And the crowd are all buying it. The crowd have all brought pink glow sticks along because they really want Kirby to win that much.
We distributed the glow sticks.
Did we?
We were hoping.
Damn.
No, people did bring
them, but they were the heavy, thick ones. Thank God they didn't throw them.
We gave out like 600-700 or so in the hope that they would throw them when it happened. Unfortunately, they did.
Kirby's on the ropes for the Zoidberg elbow, and you timed it well, but were you scared?
Terrified.
Yeah.
Because it's such an obvious visual cue, but when you're behind that curtain, you're just thinking, oh God, what if I do it wrong? How can I miss
what if I trip?
The bald guy going whoop, 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 along the... I can't get that wrong, surely, but in my head I'm just thinking, oh God, what if he does it before and I'm not meant to do it? And then it happens, and I was worried that I was going to stack it going down the ramp and just fall on my arse or on my face, I guess.
Yeah, it was in Northumbria Uni.
Yeah, so it was like a stage, two quite steep steps, and then the floor.
B, I was going to push him too light and he wouldn't feel it, and then I'd have to go back up and like that. Or C, I was going to push him too hard, he would slip and he would injure himself. So fortunately, I just used my fingertips like that. He felt it on his bum. And then he went over. But you can see in the videos online still, and you can see people in the crowd literally going. There's a guy called Andrew Emerson who goes to all of the Northeast wrestling shows, and you see him going up, F you, Parmesan! Like that. People cared.
And the glow sticks came raining down, and you just stood there on the apron, which was great, until one of them, I think, clipped you.
Yeah, clipped. No, I thought, that's enough. We've got the visual now. I was there for maybe 15 seconds.
What were you saying? I've always wondered this. What were you saying
you
to
were
him?
mouthing things.
I was mouthing, I hate you so so much. I didn't know. I haven't really thought about what am I going to say when I'm there. I remember getting up there and saying, "Oh, okay, I'm here now. I can't just stare him down. I hate you so effing much."
It was a feud that had been building since the first tapings when you just found him annoying.
Yes.
You were a face, he was a heel, and he was annoying you to get matches and stuff. And it totally switched.
Exactly,
It was
and it was
perfect.
because the fans started to love him.
Yes.
When I was denying his title requests.
Yeah.
What was the setup for this? He handcuffed himself to the rope.
Sang karaoke.
He was singing karaoke
during
and I had
other
to
matches.
come out, and it was eventually I was like, fine, you can have your title match, but the setup was perfect for it. It was so well executed. It's something I'm really, really proud of.
We also had the main event, which was a huge match as well. Kurt Angle versus Joe Henry. Henry had previously won the Kurt Angle Invitational Rumble or Battle Royal.
Last eliminating EC3.
Last eliminating EC3, or I guess like the dark matter version of Joe Henry, if you look at them side by side. And he did so many of those near like, whoa, oh no, I've held onto the ropes, and I was like, mate, don't fall. Like, we can't. EC3 angle happens all the time in TNA or in Impact. We can't have that. And then I was like, Henry is, out of everyone on the roster, I think the wrestler that I think we all know the most.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'd say so.
And I didn't even know him that well at the time, but I felt really proud of him because it was a great
so
match.
proud.
It was his best match to date. It had a
think-
real sports entertainment big feel to it. It felt really important.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. I remember Joe coming back through the curtain and just being like, everyone congratulating him because it was great.
It was a great matchup. They're both, I mean, obviously on different levels because Angle's one of the best amateur wrestlers ever, but Henry is also an amateur wrestler. They had that, groundwork. And they both had a keen sense of the sports entertainment side of it. And I remember asking Joe, I was like, because Joe got him in the ankle lock, and it was before Joe was using the ankle lock, and everyone was like, this isn't going to happen, is it? And then eventually Angle rolled through and reversed it and got the win. But I remember saying to Henry afterwards, I was like, I really thought he was going to tap when you had that ankle lock in. And he was like, mate, I did as well. I was like, come on, like, do it.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a really good. That show was one of the best ones, I reckon.
It's a shame that nobody saw it.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
go back to this.
Here we go.
So it was the first pay-per-view. It was on WhatCulture Extra at the time. It was the newly launched
And it
subscription service.
It was also streaming through Fight TV.
Was it at that time? I don't think it
Possibly,
was.
I don't know.
No, I
I
think
don't
that came later as a backup in case the WhatCulture Extra feed didn't work.
Yeah.
So the feed, essentially, too many people were logging on. Demand was far higher than they expected, and you came after. Like, you had been doing the vision mixing. It looked amazing. Sam did such a good job
The
here.
crack was basically like I started off doing live mixing at shows. As like a build up to this, like just getting used to it. And I think for the prior set of tapings, every night, maybe if we did a 2 or 3 night taping, I was sat there the entire time, dark matches, everything, just cutting it, recording it, going back and looking at it, spending time working out how I'm going to do transitions, how I'm going to do things like name slates, cut into VT, how we're going to get the conversation going with you and commentary and all this stuff. And I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. I don't feel like I'm at all ready to do this. Everybody around me is like, it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, it's all going to crash and burn.
Our attitude was very much, Sam's the most qualified for this. He'll be fine.
It's all going to catch on fire and it'll all be my fault. And then I completely forgot that we then had to work with Cornette and Jim Ross. So met Cornette first.
And Alex Shane.
And Alex Shane,
toilets.
yes. Toilets with the sign,
There was a
yeah.
sign in the background
But-
of one of the
So
shots
good.
pointing to the toilets,
But-
and it pointed to Alex Shane's head. Sorry, carry on.
It was like... It was like...
Toilet Shane.
I met Cornette first, and Cornette was fine. Cornette was just sort of like, yeah, great. And then Jim Ross walked in, and Jim Ross was obviously fine, consummate professional. But like when he like asked for me and then reached out and shook my hand, it was like that's the voice, that's the childhood voice.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was like I just froze. And then I'm terrified. We're going through things backstage. We're running through all of the VTs, how long the show is going to run, the allotted time for all the segments, like any segments we can move around in case there's anything. You have to basically take all of this stuff into account. So everything's numbered and structured, and if you need to move stuff or get rid of stuff, you can just all do it. You all have the same sheet of paper, and it's all uniform. And like everybody eventually leaves, and I am terrified. It's just me and Jim Ross left in this locker room. And he looks at me, he's like, "You look really nervous, son." And I was like, yes, I am. This is the first time I've done this. It's all going to go wrong. And he was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And I explained I was doing all the vision mixing. He's like, "Do you watch sports?" I was like, "Yeah." And he basically told me to just treat it like sport. Don't try and be arty. Don't go for lingering shots. Don't go for ridiculous stuff unless it's absolutely warranted. And then, like, he just calmed me right down. And then at the end of it, just put on his hat and went, "At the end of the day, just get out there and hit all the buttons, baby." And then smacked me on the back and walked out of the room. And then from that point, I was so on it. And then I'm sat for the whole show. I'm getting all the cues right. Everything's going well. It's not amazing, but like I'm getting it right for the first time, and there's not been any colossal F-ups. And then afterwards, I'm sat there. We go dark. Everything's happened, and everybody's like left and had a great night. And I'm sat there, and I'm like, that was amazing. I'm like shaking with joy. It's like, I've done it. I've done something I didn't think I could possibly do. And then Jack came up and he went, it was a great show, man. Just shame about the stream. And I went,
no, it was don't check Twitter.
Don't check
Was it
Twitter.
don't
Don't check Twitter.
Yeah, because then I logged onto Twitter immediately after that. I was like, what do you mean? And you went, the stream. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? And so checked, and then I had around 400 notifications just calling me every name.
Oh, it was your fault
it wasn't
according to
your
them.
fault,
Yeah,
because
that's it.
because
Good
I
point,
was
sir.
the one that was responsible for all of that stuff apparently in their mind. Well, my job stops at, as I said, I'm the one that just clicks on what cameras you're watching. But I guess people didn't understand, but I'll never forget just going from this amazing high and this like, because it's like anybody that does media or has ever like made a short film or anything or done a live event, like when it goes well and when you've finished it and you feel like
You're
it's
buzzing.
gone well, it's just this huge natural high.
Yeah.
You're like, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. We did it. And then just having that taken away from
Yeah,
me.
very sorry.
And that was crushing. That was absolutely crushing.
Funny though.
And then everything built up to the next big show, which felt like the next step up, really, because it was in one of the ice arenas that we ran. This was True Legacy. It was our first show, I believe, outside of Newcastle.
Yep.
Which started a crazy journey of just being on the roads of the UK a lot. Which, in hindsight, I actually quite enjoyed the traveling around lifestyle a little bit because it wasn't constant. We didn't have the full wrestler experience. We were just sort of part-time part of the show.
Travelers, yeah.
It was it led to a lot of stressful moments, a lot of very funny moments as well, and we all became very well acquainted with Weatherby Services.
Oh yeah, Kings of Weatherby.
What a service station that was. Do any of you have any road stories off the top of your head?
I just remember being terrified on the way home everywhere because everybody else had fallen asleep. But I can't fall asleep in a car knowing it's late at night. I don't want to be the guy that falls asleep on the driver, so I always tried to stay awake as best I could. But like there'd be times where I just drifted off, and like I'd wake up terrified, like not because I know the driver's gonna fall asleep, but because like I'm not there for conversation to like keep the driver stimulated.
Well,
I remember Stevie Aaron almost killing us.
I was gonna say, we're in a
Oh, my
and
God.
Stevie, God bless him, the heart and
Stevie's
soul
great.
of WCPW.
Stevie is great.
Yeah.
One of our ring announcers, the longest tenured ring announcer
In the world.
in the world. He was driving us to one of the shows. We pulled into services, and on the slip road on the way out, it was an automatic kind of minivan type
Yeah.
of thing. And he just
I think
wasn't.
you went for the clutch.
I've never driven an automatic before.
Yeah,
I've
it's
driven
just a
a
big
manual.
dodge 'em. I imagine it's very confusing if you're not used to it.
I remember keeping it quiet when I turned 25 and I was old enough to be able to drive rentals because they didn't know that I could drive. And I thought, I'm just going to keep that noise to myself because I didn't want to be the driver on the road. But he stalled it.
Stalled it twice, I think,
On the slip road, back
on
onto the motorway.
Yeah.
And he just, oh, sorry, lads. yeah, you almost killed us there, Steve. Thanks,
Oh, I've got it
mate.
this time. I've got it this time.
It wasn't deliberate though.
No.
Oh,
but,
God, no, we're not having a go.
Like it just, I remember it was sort of like the scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where they're spinning out of control, and when they finally get to like rest, he's just peeling his fingers one by one out of the dashboard. Because we were all just like, obviously, because the first time it was like, oh God. And then the second time there were cars behind us and we got up to speed and it was just at the merge point and we stopped again and it was like,
There were a lot of funny. We'll talk about our favourite moments at the very end, like our singular favourite moments. But one of my favourite just things that happened often was doing a show in a new town, heading to the hotel, all arriving in drips and drabs, and just sitting and having a few beers in the hotel bar afterwards with some of the best wrestlers in the world. Which
Yeah,
is,
it's a testament to how welcoming everyone was. Because after the shows, it was just like everyone crowds round, and it,
was like a
wasn't.
family.
It wasn't like all
Wasn't
of the
rowdy.
YouTube lads are
No.
there, and then all the wrestlers are there. Everybody just got on, and I
Yeah.
think that's in part because all of the wrestlers enjoyed doing the shows, because some of the best wrestlers in the world on the independent scene certainly were a part of them, and the exposure that they were getting, everybody cared. Everybody cared.
I remember we had like a group, like a big group on Facebook with all the crew and all the wrestlers and everyone involved was in this big Facebook group, which would often be like, has anyone found any kick pads? But I remember various veterans of wrestling would comment on the fact that locker rooms aren't always like this. Like, apparently our atmosphere was very good, very friendly, and everyone just got on. It seemed like a real like team effort, basically, and it was really nice to be a part of. But we didn't know any different. I thought the wrestling business is great.
Yeah, it's wicked, isn't it?
It led to True Legacy, which I think was in Altrincham.
I think that's
It was
just outside of Manchester.
the Silver Blades Arena.
Yes, the
just outside
Silver
of
Blades.
Manchester. Yeah.
Oh man,
But
me and
there
Melina
was-
bonded over the gloves that they were selling in the vending machine at the Silver Blades. She was.
Oh yeah, where did you get those gloves? From the vending machine. It was a great one, though.
We were stood next to each other for a meet and greet, and she was a lovely woman.
Yeah, she's really
Bloody
good.
hell.
Those meet and greets are amazing. One of my favourite pictures from WCPW is of me, you, and a very, very young fan. He must have been about 3. Do you remember the little kid? And he was so excited, especially to meet Jack the Jobber.
Yes.
And we've got this picture of him, and he's absolutely like he couldn't give a toss about like Kurt Angle sat over there signing autographs.
It was
He was
so
just
weird,
so
man.
into Jack the Jobber,
It
and
was
there's
so
a
weird.
really nice picture of us all doing the wrestler fist thing that you do in photos.
There was a different kid as well who once gave me. I think it was the second time I'd met him, but it was like there was like a year gap in between. And when you're like 5 and 6, I was like, what? He's tall and it was weird. But I remembered him, and he gave me like he wasn't that young, but he gave me like a key ring that he'd made. And on one side it had WCPW, on the other side it had Jack, and I was like, oh my god, he wasn't that young. He's probably about 9 or 10. If you're watching this now, cheers, because that made my day. Yeah, we met loads of like just great people.
Everyone was so nice, weren't they?
And if you ever see us and we've met before and we don't remember, we're really sorry. It's just we met in this period of our lives. We met so many people. It was impossible to remember everybody. But it was great. Sam often missed these because he was busy setting up the show.
Yeah, I wasn't on camera either, so nobody cared.
No,
So,
you
but-
could tell a real WhatCulture fan when they knew Sam Driver.
You're the Shredder! Yeah, I am!
No, I was often like, we were working out where to run cables. We were
Yeah.
working out, how we were going to set up ringside, how it was going to look, the lighting rigs, all that sort of stuff. And eventually, when it progressed to the fact that we'd be doing it live, we had to start using, because when we did Refuse to Lose, there's 2 different ways you can sort of get something out live on the internet. And one's like a direct line, which is just like a huge Ethernet cable they run down from a satellite on the roof of the building that they sort of put there for the event. And the other way is to hire a SAT truck or a SAT van, and we had a SAT van guy.
Yeah, we did.
And it was mental, because he'd just come in and he'd be like talking about, so what like format, what encoders are you using? I'm like, mate,
Windows Movie Maker.
we're recording this in MOV, and that's all I know. So like, I've never used these cameras before. They're like brand new. Like, I know that we're using SDI. We're not using wireless systems yet, and it was like that learning curve was crazy as well. And some like with the clouds had come, and you'd have to move the van. And it was like, what?
I love doing those meet and greets. It was always a bit awkward because we'd do the meet and greets before the show. People would buy like the VIP tickets and they would get to meet us, you lucky devils. And it was like everyone would queue up by the ring. We'd all be there with our shoes off.
Take your shoes
Yeah,
off.
forgetting, because you don't want to mess the canvas up.
What should be there, mate?
Forgetting to wear like matching socks every time.
Oh.
One I remembered like
his
his
socks
toe
are brilliant.
poking through his thing.
The meet and greets were a lot of fun, and
Yeah,
this
I love
show
those.
felt, as I say, felt bigger. It felt like it was the biggest one we've done at this point, and I could tell the noise of the crowd was more. And also, it was just nice to know that we were in a different city and people had still come.
Yeah.
This had some big matches on it. I think this was the one where the opening match of the main show, like non-dark, was Mustache Mountain against Moss and Slater.
Yes.
And the crowd were really hot for it. It was a great tag match.
Really good match.
Yeah.
And
There was Kirby Damo, which was
His
Damo's
send-off.
last match.
you got on holiday.
Yeah, so I think that the thing was that because I sided with Damo for one night only. It was like, I've brought Damo in to kill Kirby,
Yeah, yeah.
essentially. And then Damo failed at the end, and I came out, and I remember doing this
You
horrible...
chastised him, right?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
blood-curdling screech down the mic. From oh, yeah, what was that? No, I just remember going...
It was after the show.
And I remember people being pissed off when I walked out, because it was such a horrible...
Screech.
yeah, really, really not. And I came out and I was like, what have you done? You've screwed it up. And then I think he hit me again at the end. I ended up on my arse and I had to run away. But another great match there. And the main event, of course, was Kurt Angle versus Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about these big matches between two. Because one thing that I think one of the criticisms aimed at us that I think we actually defied and proved wrong was that it was just going to be a supercard thing. We'd use our UK talent at the expense of the big imports. When really, actually, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more at the very end, we actually got a lot of UK guys more over because of the shows. Now, I don't know. I felt conflicted about matches like these ones, like super matches, like Angle versus Cody. But they put on a brilliant match, though.
In fairness, Steve Linsky got over massively. He did a cartwheel at the beginning,
and
immediately came back afterwards, like, "Can I get that video of me doing the cartwheel?"
See my cartwheel.
Steve's great.
Senior official, WCPW senior official, Steve Linsky. This was also the match where afterwards, and I believe Angle won this one.
I think so.
Him and Cody were doing a series in various different promotions.
Yeah, Angle won because he gets his hand raised.
Right. And who should come out to congratulate him but Gio Henry, who he just lost, who Angle had just beaten at the last show. And Henry gets in the ring. Everyone's like, "This is a great moment." Like, Henry's been so sporting. And I was stood next to Kenny McIntosh in the sort of bit of the bleachers where it was kind of cordoned off for us if we wanted to watch the show, if we had a free moment. And me and Kenny were like, "Do you think he's going to..." Because we didn't know. We hadn't read the full script. We didn't know if it was coming on. We were like, "He's not going to..." He's not. Henry drops down, low blows Angle. Me and Kenny both go, "Oh!"
The crowd went silent. And
it was
then
amazing.
You heard the reaction.
It was so good because we were both begging for him to do it. We were like, "Do it," and he did.
And you know what? They booked this perfectly in that if Henry had beaten Angle in the first match on the first pay-per-view, people would have been like, "Oh God, they're Roman Reignsing Joe Henry." It meant so much more. He didn't need to beat him. He came out, and fair play to Kurt for being up for it as well. It absolutely made Henry, and it made him a top heel. Bang, just like that.
The one thing I remember about this show as well is like it wasn't going out live. This was pre-recorded, and it was when we were using. I don't think it was Elto, but Mark was there. Mark Shuttle.
Shout out to Elto. Shout out to Mark.
And it was an external camera crew that had come in and were helping us sort of get used to shooting wrestling professionally, because there's a certain way you shoot it. Like, and if you look at the house, the house shows, the very first shows in the warehouse, we didn't really follow those rules. So
we used a lot of the NJPW guys. Shout out to Rich.
Yeah, and it was like we had those guys, and I was just, my job for that night was to watch the hard cams really far up in sort of like the rafters almost, right in the nosebleeds. And I think for the final 20 minutes, half an hour of the night, it was just me and James Dixon.
I was going to ask you about this conversation because I remember you telling me about it briefly, but I don't remember exactly what was said.
We just sort of stood there, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the size of the crowd. I couldn't believe anything. Like, I couldn't believe people had turned out to a different city, as he'd said. People had travelled down from Newcastle to see, because they didn't want to miss
2,000 people, I think.
Yeah, it was 2,000, and it was crazy. And he just sort of, because he's obviously been in situations like this before, big shows, and he's like, "This is what it's all about." And I was like, yeah. And you sort of seeing people get engaged with it, and you sort of taking it all in as this big picture. It was amazing.
I remember him saying, "This is our WrestleMania."
Really?
Yeah. And I think it was actually. I think that may, I don't want to say that's necessarily where it peaked, but as far as like audience attendance and hot crowds, that might have been it.
It felt really big. But then we moved on to, this was right towards the end of the year now. This is sort of December time. End of November, start of December. The next big show, which I think may have been your favourite show, was Delete WCPW in Nottingham, I believe.
It was my favourite main event.
Right.
Yeah, I think my favourite show will always be probably the very first Refuse to Lose, just because I did what I thought I couldn't do. But Delete was great.
This was voted, I think,
so good.
our show of the year by the fans. And it was, well, we'll talk about...
It won, I think, the award from FSM as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Kirby versus Ospreay certainly won match of the year from them.
Yeah. Or did we win promotion of the year, I think, from FSM?
Surely not.
It was, I think it might have been like UK promotion of the year or something.
No
like
way.
That.
YouTube promotion.
We got we got two, and one of them was Kirby Ospreay.
Take that, Grimm's Toy Shop.
But I just remember a picture of Drew inside the blue cage. So that's why I can't remember if it was show of the year or something. But
that main event was so good.
I was going to talk about the main event first, and then the special guests later on.
Yeah.
So the main event was a title match. It was the champion Connors, who by this point was just such a twisted heel.
He was on a tear. Yeah.
Gio Henry, who was getting increasingly desperate to get his hands on that belt.
This was his final chance.
Right. And
so he was given chance after chance after chance. And it was like, right, this is it. This is your last chance at the belt. Don't come asking for any more.
And a returning Drew McIntyre, who had been, it's no one's fault, but he had unfortunately been actually injured in a match with Connors. And or a spot with Connors or something. And he came back at a London show before this in the Coronet. I think it was in the London show.
Yeah,
and we had to sneak him in the side of the building.
Yeah,
this
halfway through the show.
6'5" Scottish man with long black hair, and we had to go. Me and Kenny had to go out because he arrived halfway through the show, so no one would see him. And he came in, big hoodie and that, and he's like, "All right, boys, how's it going? You all right?" And that was Gio Henry. I don't want to do that. And we snuck him in, and the pop when the lights went down, they came back up. He had his hood up in the ring, but everyone knew who it was because look at him. He takes the hood down, and everyone's just like, "Oh!" And then he went on a cut. This isn't a build-up to Elite WCPW. He went on a cut, like one of the best promos I've ever heard live.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Everybody was just hanging on every single word.
Joseph Connors, you are. You know the word.
Great. And Connors sold it perfectly as well. Reminded me of Triple H selling Mick Foley, turning back into Cactus Jack a bit. He was terrified. And it all led to this cage match. I know you probably want to tell a story about talking to Drew before this match.
So I was about to talk about that. I remember getting there early in the day, and I had to talk to somebody about something, but Drew was waiting to talk to the same person, and that person's on the phone. So we're just sort of awkwardly sat in a queue, like we're waiting outside the principal's office. We're just sort of sat there, like
Sam and Drew, best part.
And he was like, the whole thing with Delete was it was a very, very finely tuned operation. It was the finest tuned operation in terms of timing because we had a cage match. And the cage was an old school cage. And the way that they work is when you build a ring, you have the frame. These things slotted into the posts sort of underneath the boards and everything, I think. And they are these little things that jut out at the corners. And then the cage just slides onto them. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 8 segments to the cage,
right?
And they have to slot in together and then be bound together, and then you've got to move around. But we only had so many hands, and we only had so much time in VT.
Shout out to the Nottingham-based trainees, by the way, who are in crew because they were lifesavers on the show.
Yeah, and we got it done so fast, but like that was hell.
Yes.
But
just before, shout out as well to Howard Drake and I've said his real name, Drake and Slater, who were like the heads of our ring crew.
Yeah.
Because without them, they put in so much graft.
But I remember, they're like setting up the cage and taking it down, and setting it up and taking it down, and we're shaving minutes off each time. I think when we started, it was like 20 minutes. It was like it needs to get down to like 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we had like back-to-back VTs that would fill that gap. And Drew's just sat and he's like, I've been watching some cage matches in the build-up to this because I know I was going to be in a cage match. And he's like, I've just been watching really old-school stuff on the network with the old big blue cage. And he's like, and I thought, well, it's not going to be an old-school cage. And he turned up and he was buzzing. And he was buzzing especially because it was blue. I was furious because it was blue.
Didn't really match.
Because I wasn't furious. I was just like, oh, man. Like, our whole colour scheme was red, white, and black. And then you just got this like red, white, and black ring with this massive blue monstrosity
WrestleMania
all
2
around.
I'm not going to hear a bad word about the blue bar cage.
He absolutely loved the fact it was a blue classic cage.
And not only that, but he won the match. And this is one instance where I'd been
the finisher though.
I'd been bloody worked by Dixon. I was like, who's going over? He was like, Henry. I was like, oh sweet, Henry will be the champion. And he didn't win, but Henry played a big part in why that finish of the match was so good.
Yeah.
Because I think Connor's about to
Pillmanize Drew's neck or something, isn't he?
What? I don't know.
And then I think Henry steps down from the cage.
Or to save him, was this earlier?
And then I think Drew gets in control, hits his finish, and Henry scrambles over the
has
top.
to get out.
The timing was absolutely perfect. So Drew hit his finisher, the
Connors.
DDT on Connors, and then it goes 1, 2,
and then
3, and then as soon as 3, Henry drops.
But Henry drops at 2.5. So when Henry hits the floor, it's the second that Henry happened.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It wasn't a draw or anything.
No.
Drew was the winner.
Clearly won, but
the timing was sensational.
It was great, and I was watching it like, oh god, because I didn't know who was going to win either. But when it happened, I was like, that was really superbly timed by all 3 guys. That show also featured some of the biggest names we ever had, and I've put in the notes here mine and Pachiti's 2 best friends, respectively, Matt Hardy and Bully Ray.
Yes.
Who got their bloody hands on us at various stages.
Yeah.
We'll talk about yours a bit later.
Okay.
But you originally recruited Bully Ray into Pachiti Club, who were just running wild at this point, Adam.
Ludicrous, this whole thing is a bit of a blur, but essentially the original plan was actually for me to interfere in 2 matches in the same way. I'm so glad this didn't happen because it would have been the wrong kind of heat for sure. I think I was meant to interfere in the Kirby match earlier. I think that's
Kirby
right.
Ospreay too.
Yeah, dick him over again.
Well, I'm glad you didn't because that match was excellent.
Yeah, agreed. Instead, I just ruined 1 match. So Matt and Bubba had a cool sort of hardcore match. There was a ref bump, and I came out and low-blowed Matt Hardy. And I remember him saying backstage to me, it's just like, do you know how to do a low blow? Not really, Matt. I've never really done. You might be able to tell I'm not very good. And so I went out and did it, and I hit him hard. I absolutely
You don't need to lay in a low blow.
Well, no, because I was worried about it looking crap.
Doesn't the hand always, whenever you see it on TV, the hand always sort of goes up and hits him in sort of
I've
the
learned
navel?
how. I learned how to do one for North.
Yes.
I went the leg.
Yeah. Well, I hit him in the bollocks, and then Bubba Ray Dudley joins Pacitti Club. At this point, I think Ospreay was already
Swords of Essex
B was in there.
Bubba Ray Dudley.
And then Bubba Ray Dudley, the weirdest mismatch. Oh my god,
the picture's fantastic. B shared it the other day on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't think Bubba was in that.
No,
one. It was me, Paul,
Was it
Scotty.
where you sat with the backwards chair?
No, we'll get to that in a bit. My ass. B, Paul, Scotty, Will. And I was just happy to be there. So you see all them doing their Swords of Essex pose, and I'm that big wide grin. How has this happened
to me? Picture.
So that was a good match. I'm glad that I only ruined one match there, because that was the right call. And it was, I guess, unexpected. I think a lot of casual fans, or fans who were unfamiliar with WCPW, I should say, were there. And I remember people walking out after that because they were pissed off that a YouTube guy had interfered. But as far as storyline goes, it did actually set up something which worked really well. So I think it was the right decision.
Hometown the next night.
Yeah, right.
But after that match, Matt Hardy walked around the ring doing a bit of a send-off. I've sneaked my way into the crowd, into the front row, because before that, Kenny had approached me and came up to me in Gorilla and gone, Matt Hardy would like to do something with you. And I was like, oh my God, I used to play as him on SmackDown too, because my friend Mark would always be Jeff and I had to be Matt, and he wouldn't teach me how to do the Swanton Bomb. And then I went backstage, got in the locker room. The Americans had their own little locker room because they were big deal. They weren't unfriendly to anybody. They just wanted to hang out with each other because they all knew each other.
Yeah.
I think I went in there and it was Matt Hardy and Bubba Ray Dudley.
Yes.
And Bubba Ray goes, "Is this the kid who buries everyone?" And I was like, I think you mean as Ross, I think. This
relates to the final deletion stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like the final deletion.
Yeah.
Which we should probably talk about a little bit. I know it might be uncomfortable, but you two and Blompier did a reaction to it, and at first, you didn't like it. I actually think that a lot of people didn't like it at the beginning, and then people it became better. It was so unlike anything that you guys had seen before, I guess. And I'm not like defending you or anything here, but I do think there was a portion of the audience that didn't like it, and you went into that, and that's fine. But we got a lot of flack from people saying, "Oh, they hate the final deletion, and now they've booked."
We didn't know they were going to book Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
No.
And when they did, and then there was a show in the build-up to this one where Kenny was on the road with Matt Hardy doing his like Inside the Ropes tour with him. I just got a DM from Kenny just going like, "Matt Hardy's just called you out on stage on my show," and I was like, "Whoa!"
Jobber Jack.
Walking in the venue that day for Delete, and you and Blompier have already met him. You're chatting away to Matt Hardy, and he's in his normal voice, and he says to me, and he goes, "Ah, yes." I'm like, "Ah, you dick." He turned out to be like so nice.
Wonderful guy. Full of ideas as well. It's always really great when like the imports were over.
Yeah.
And Bubba was the same in that he had loads of ideas.
He loved storylines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I go in the locker room, and Matt's basically like, I'd seen the one he'd done on Impact where he dragged a fan over, a fat plant over the thing, a stunt granny, and bit their ear off. And he wanted to do the same with me. And it's the most surreal moment of my life, I think, is me lying on the floor of the locker room with Matt Hardy on top of me, demonstrating what he's going to do. And I'm just like, what's going on here? And he said he'd pop a blood capsule. I'm exposing the business massively here.
I think that's
What are you doing?
And
He's still got an ear, so I think it's all right.
He was like...
the NWA are going to come after you.
He said, I love Ice Cube. He said that... He was like, I'm not trained at all. And he was like, "That's okay, I'll lift you over as gingerly as you like." And he sort of did. And his only instruction was try and get your screams as high pitched as you can. All right. He came around the crowd. He'd forgot which corner I said I was going to be in. I was in the right corner. He came round.
He was making the rounds anyway. He'd find you.
He was like, he did a bit of improv where he was like, "Oh, do you apologize?" I was like, "Yes, of course I do." He's like, "Do you swear your apology to the 7 deities and all this?" I was like, "Yeah." Some guy next to me is just going, "Get him, get him!" And there's one point where I grabbed the guy by the neck and go like the scruff of his neck and go like, "What are you doing?" Like, shut up. Lucky he didn't smack me. And he just goes,
Imagine the fan just knocked you out.
Bites your ear off legit before Matt can get to it.
He goes to give me a hug, Matt. And we hug across the barrier. And in wrestling, everything moves quicker than you think. But in that moment, I remember thinking, like, when's he going to do it? Because wrestlers have such a good sense of slow timing, and he's just waiting. And then he picked me up when I was off, and down on the thing. There's a bit of a crunch and landing, and then I could hear him. The crowd all go, whoa! So there's no need for him to do it. But I can hear him going like, nom, 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 nom. The blood goes everywhere. He like chucks my hat away. Blood's all going over the place. I'm like, this is good. He goes off, and I just try and... I think it's like I think the only thing I'm good at in ring stuff is selling. I think I'm all right at selling because I'm so feeble in that. And I was just like trying to freak out. I'd like notice the blood and go like, oh! Got backstage. A few of the wrestlers were watching on the screen in the back, and they were like, we are so glad you didn't go for your hat. Because they thought when he took the hat, I was going to be like, right, let's get that back.
Because I think when you'd been speared by Primate previously, one of the first things you did was grab the hat.
No, I want to grab my head because I'd hit my head on the canvas.
Right, okay.
Because I didn't tuck my
But it
chin
looked
in.
like you were trying to keep your hat on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then went to the back, and Elto, I think it was like, what's this? That's this. And I was like, it's Matt Hardy's blood caption. So he was like, so that's Matt Hardy's spit. And he just laughed at me. And I was like, yeah, I'll probably go and wash myself up. But that was one of the most surreal things I ever will do. It was great. And later on, sent him a message just like, thanks so much for everything. That was great. And he just was really nice. And he was like, see you down the road, which is what wrestlers say, like, because they never know when they're going to see each other again.
Yeah.
And then we saw each other again in Orlando, and he was so sound again. I'm so annoyed that I pissed all over the final deletion.
The only problem I ever had with the final deletion was production quality. I thought it could have been so much. And
yeah,
because I'm a nitpicky arsehole like that.
That was part of the charm, though, wasn't it?
I guess it was part of the charm, where it was all disjointed and it looked really sort of like the editing was sort of blocky and paced, and I'd like. Yeah, I think at the time I just saw it and I was like, what is this? This isn't wrestling. But realistically...
It was so different to anything.
It was the first great character in wrestling for a long time. I just didn't realise it.
You're allowed to change your mind on stuff.
Yeah.
People think that when you say something, you hate it forever. And I do think
this is the IW...
I do think it got better and better.
After that show, we moved on to a few shows, mixed results really. Kirby Mania wasn't one of our better shows. Let's just admit that.
Darkest hour.
Was it?
On production, yeah.
It was my personal least favorite venue we ever ran.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone who came out in Liverpool because that was a freezing cold venue.
So cold, which is weird, like visually, it's a stunning venue.
I'm not saying it was
really like architecturally beautiful, but it was cold. There was a vignette or a promo video or something shot in the basement, and it literally looks like a cave down there. There's dripping water. There's big puddles of water. You couldn't stand in there.
That was for the Oddity.
It was it was hot outside, or like quite warm outside, I think, when we did it. And then you go into the venue, it was just
so cold.
Freezing.
Colder than the ice rinks.
Yeah, it was just damp. The entire thing was damp.
By the way, the show wasn't bad because of the crowd, who were great.
Yeah.
It was more just like things weren't clicking. Things that we'd written didn't go over as well as we thought.
I think a lot of it is as well, though, when you've got a freezing cold venue, it's hard to get people motivated to take off the jackets and start jumping around.
Yeah, true.
You know, they expect the place to at least be heated.
We also had Lights Out. I remember an excellent match between Travis Banks and Zack Sabre Jr. I remember Travis backstage afterwards being like, that was sick. You know, when like wrestlers are really like wound up after the matches. I've never seen him so intense. He was buzzing because he'd had a great match.
It's just the adrenaline, isn't it?
There was another match later on with Drew and Ospreay, and Drew was buzzing after that one. He was like, that's the best match I've had since I came back. I needed that. When wrestlers have a good match and they know it's good, they can tell instantly, and they're so like high on adrenaline. You kind of got to stay out of their way a little bit.
I had to do your job for this for some reason.
For Lights Out?
Yeah,
Lights Out.
I think it was Lights Out. It's
Lights Out
the Manchester venue.
I think Lights Out was recorded. It wasn't a live.
Okay, right.
I think Lights Out went on a delay.
That was it.
It was recorded and it was going to be edited, I think, through the software that we use. So I could literally run all the cameras and we could sit and cut it. But the thing was that the person who controlled the screen wasn't there. The screen wasn't. It was only ready to go just as we were about to open doors. And then they needed us to get all the files onto like a memory stick to then run them through Media Player.
It was VLC.
It was VLC, yeah.
And I remember the guy would do it, and I was saying, okay, so out next is Travis Banks or whoever. He would launch VLC, wait for the little progress bar at the bottom to disappear, which is like 3 seconds, and then literally press screen share to get it to the...
Yeah.
It was so dodgy.
But then during the Bully Ray match, I'll remember as well, that was where I went out through the crowd, came back, and stacked it. I caught my foot coming back over the barricade, and I just felt myself slow motion, just going with a very expensive cameraman, just going And then I had to like turn and just land on my back. And he nicked my camera after that and started using it
As
in
a
the match.
heelish prop.
Yeah.
Do you know who I am?
Devon, get the riddle stick. So, shout out to Ryan Clark. We also did some shows in Edinburgh, one of which was Hendry Mania, because Gio Henry he's from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And was he babyface or heel this time? I can't quite remember.
Hendry
So this
Mania
one-
was heel.
Yeah, that does make
Yeah,
sense.
because-
Because
Oh.
I thought we might.
I think it was after Kirby Mania. He wanted a show in his honor, and it was the start of the Prestige, I believe.
I was worried that we had our
Oh.
Trues mixed up, and the heel turn happened at True Destiny.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
Rather than True Legacy.
Right.
I
That
can't
makes more
remember,
sense.
but no, it makes
Whatever
sense.
you-
Henry was
yeah.
definitely heel here.
I think
it was-
because the show was in his honor. I think he had a big.
So-
the ropes were all gold.
Yeah.
He
So-
came out and sort of cut
so-
a big promo to open the show. And
You reckon Henry was face?
Well, I seem to remember him being babyface in the
the
Triple
cage.
Threat. Yeah,
I think he
in the
was.
steel cage.
I think he was
because he was
babyface.
just like, oh no, nobody would
Yeah.
cared if he was heel.
No, was it not the?
No, he was
the-
facing
the,
that.
The cage drove him to
Yes.
To the heel
maybe.
turn.
to the heel turn.
Yeah,
So-
that makes more sense.
so
So I
ne-
think we've got them mixed up.
Sorry. So next time Angle came back is when he turned on him.
Yeah, so that must have
Yeah.
been following the match with Del Rio.
Okay, that makes
think.
sense. Right. Sorry, everyone. To be fair,
There'll be
there's
people writing comments and now deleting them.
so
we
much,
got there.
So much stuff
They'll have already
happened.
sent them.
That is my bad. I'm sorry about that. We also had a very memorable episode of Loaded in Newcastle upon Tyne where you were put through a bloody table, you big extremist, you big
Yes.
ECW lad.
I was written off. I've told this story more than any other story, I think, but I guess I'll tell it again very quickly. I was meant to go through a gimmick table, one that had been sawn in various places to ease the fall,
Yes.
essentially,
You
to
have
make it.
no idea what happened at production when you. Yeah.
Oh, well, Peter thought I was legit. I remember, I think Dixon getting a text saying he's hurt. He's really, really hurt.
Yeah.
I'm just a great seller. So I was in charge of getting the table out, the table that I knew that I'd be going through in about 10, 15 minutes time. So in one of the coolest moments of my life, Bubba Ray Dudley goes, Pacini, get the table! So I was like, oh my God, look at me. I'm like 16 years old again. This is the coolest
I'm
thing.
walking here.
So I lift the ring skirt and I grab a table out and I'm like, yeah! And then I look down and oh my word, that's a real table. You can see the sword marks. If it's a worked one, if it's a gimmicked one, there were no sword marks. And I can't just go, just a second. There it is, guys.
But we were sat it's like it's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. It's the wrong. He doesn't know it's the wrong one.
Why
And
was it under
we were,
there?
We were like trying to send people. I think we tried to send somebody down the front to be like, it's the wrong table. Like
I remember-
and like I was like, it's going to go through it. No, it's got the supports on it because it has these like big beams that were like held in place by big metal like studs, and it was like, oh no.
So the setup was that it looked like he was going to put me through the table, and then I managed to scramble away and run backstage.
Because in the match you'd fallen out.
Yes, yeah. So I tried to hit Kirby with a chain,
Yeah.
Bubba's bully, big steel chain, and then duck, bang,
Yeah.
hit Bubba.
And then he gets rolled
And
up.
then he gets pinned by Kirby
Yeah.
after hitting something. I can't remember what
I
it was.
thought it was a roll up. I
Yeah,
thought
it
he
might have been a
staggered
roll-
after
yeah,
the chain, maybe. I don't know.
It wouldn't have been a sable one, would it?
No.
Anyway, he's a big lad. Bully is super pissed off with me. We're milking it, like fair play to Bully for telling me all this stuff. Earlier in the night, we'd done a promo with Roxy. Me and Bubba had interrupted the women's match and come out, and we were like holding Roxy ransom.
Yeah.
And he said, right, you need to do beats 1, 2, 3. So the first one is calling Kirby out. The second one is saying, can I have my job back? And then the third one is threaten him more. And on each of those, he would like elevate the drama in that he would have her by the hair at first, and then he would have her by the throat,
Right.
and then I'd go, Bully, pick her up, and then he'd have her.
And
like,
Kirby
there.
would have to come out and save her. But
Yeah,
you're right,
absolutely. And then Kirby finally says, okay, fine.
Yeah.
If Bubba can beat me, you can have your job back.
Okay.
And everyone thought, oh, Adam's getting his GM thing back.
Yeah.
That obviously didn't happen here. Anyway, so skip forward to the table stuff. Ran backstage, managed to escape him, and then all of the baby faces and everyone from the WCPW original. So like Gabe is there, Prince and Mean's there, but then you've got like Ricochet is out there, and all
Cody.
of the, Cody was there.
Yeah. Cody was the one carrying
Yes,
you.
he was. Yeah. And I remember saying to a ref or something, the table's real. Tell him to throw me hard. Because I thought, oh, this is going to be so bad if I just like go down and sprawl across the table. We'll have to do it again. We'll have to fix it in post. But fortunately, went through it first time, and the adrenaline was absolutely pumping. For the first like 20 seconds, didn't feel a thing. I just laid there absolutely ruined. And then the pain started setting in. I was just like, oh, okay, that's pretty bad. And then I was walking like
I remember you
pooped
were
my
just
pants.
stiff the entire time when you
I
got
still
backstage.
put the ring down.
Did you?
I did.
Bloody
And I went out
hell.
drinking for one drink and then went home.
Oh, man.
Had a cry.
Which was the show, by the way? I've just remembered it. Just when he said all of the WCPW originals came down. What was the show where you stood at the top and you went, "Get 'em, boys"?
Oh, God.
Was that Rampage versus Blump?
No, yeah, that was Rampage Blumpier. So Blumpier looks like he's about to win.
Pause where you're
and
like-
I come out, whoa, sewer rat. I don't know why I was saying that. It's from Basil the Great Mouse Detective, one of my favourite Disney films. It's the lamest insult ever. Wait right there, sewer rat. I've got you all figured out. And then there's a pause and I go, "Get him, boys!" And then I think
they
it was a rib.
waited.
It was
They
like
just waited.
6 or 7 seconds. And I'm stood there
there
going,
doing this.
Come on, please, come on.
I think you'd fallen victim to one of those ribs.
I think
we've all
I had.
heard so much
I had
about.
as well.
Oh,
So yeah, that was a
great.
really good event. The original plan was for that to lead on to me versus Kirby, but it made no sense by that point. I'd already had my comeuppance, and I was really, really disappointed because I wanted to prove that. Like Blombier had, we
I'm
could
a
craft
work rate
something.
guy.
Yeah, that we could. I'm Shane McMahon. That we could craft something really exciting, which was a bit
Yeah.
different. And the thing that I remember pitching was the scaffolding was up for one of these things. Do me versus Kirby. I want to do a Shane McMahon off the side, and I want to fall through the thing, and that writes me off.
yeah.
But I'd already been ruined. I was disappointed at this point, and I think they knew it, that we'd given away my demise, and I was. As ridiculous as it is, one of the top heels in the company at this
No, you
point.
weren't.
People
It's
were
not
really
ridiculous.
invested.
Yeah.
People were really invested in it. People liked the story.
You were
Yeah.
Stephanie
And I felt,
McMahon.
Yeah.
I felt that we gave it away for free when I really wanted to do something special with Kirby. And I know we could have come up with something really good. So if anyone wants to book that,
You sound like
Dragon
Austin.
Gate.
You sound like Austin when he was annoyed about jobbing to Lesnar. No, I'm joking.
I just wanted to. I wanted to fall off something big.
Jesus
I really
Christ,
like
man.
not. It would have been cushioned and everything. I remember looking into crash mats and everything, but I wanted to do something that was visually brilliant because I thought the glow stick thing was great. Let's top that. Let's do something which is completely unexpected. People are going to assume that there's going to be lots of run-ins, but let's subvert that and let's do something
Right.
nuts. And unfortunately, it didn't happen.
This all led on to True Destiny, which, apologies for before, this is the show when Henry turned on Angle.
Yes.
After Angle had beaten Del Rio, or Alberto El Patron, in a big-time super match main event. It was also a very stacked card, and I think it might have been the first show with the 20x20 ring.
Yes,
I
big
think it
ring.
was, yeah.
Because I remember how Drake coming out for his entrance and getting in the ring, and I was thinking, oh, that looks epic. Like, it was only for the dog match, and he got on the corner, and I was just like, wow.
You
that
realise
looks good.
how big WWE guys are when you see like
Yeah.
indie lads in there.
Yeah. And Drake's not a short man.
No, no,
He's
by
like
no
6'1"
means.
or
Yeah, yeah.
something. So this was a stacked card. It was one of my favorite shows. It had Ospreay versus Ricochet, one of their many encounters, and one of the unintentionally best moments in WCPW.
Again, production table at this
I
point.
was at Gorilla for that.
Because, yeah, it was just when that plink.
So, right, Ospreay and Ricochet have this amazing exchange to start the match. We're all just watching it like, wow.
It's the exchange that results in the double superhero pose. Yeah.
And I think that to a degree, WCPW kind of not ruined, but it kind of for a while afterwards, it sort of dampened live wrestling for us because we'd seen so much of it and it was our job.
Yeah.
But even for us, this match we were watching it, this light and fast exchange, two of the best in the world, and we're just like, Jesus, this is amazing. They both do their handspring, and there's that plink, as you say. There's that
Yeah.
noise.
So both hit the top rope at the same time into the handspring, and they're going to flip back and land like superheroes. But all you hear is plink. And that plink is the turnbuckle, because it was a hook. And usually we used to have loops, so the two loops would lock together. So there's physically no way, no matter how hard you push the rope up or down, it can't unhook. Because it was a 20-foot ring, and I think it was an American ring. In America, they use like hook turnbuckles, and on certain rings, you use like it's like an inverted hook like that. So if you push it hard enough, it'll just bounce out. This thing didn't bounce out. The hook got straightened by the pressure, fired across the ring, narrowly missed the referee.
Was it Joel? Nearly
I think it was
decapitated Joel.
Yeah. And at that point, this is the opening match I think on the card.
Yeah.
Or one of the
One of the-
earliest. I think
yeah.
there was a dark match before and then
Yeah.
this, and it was just. Is that what we're going to do? We're live. What are we going to do? There's physically nothing. And it was like, can we check the ring van? Have we got anything we can like jimmy
I
together?
don't want to sound
And-
like too much of a smart ass.
and I'm sat there just panicking while everybody else is running around doing it. And I'm like,
I remember it took a minute or two to realize, but I was like, it's still going to be great.
It made the match better.
Yeah.
It made the match really unique. One of the best calls in WCPW history, and sorry if I get the wording slightly wrong here, but Matt Striker shouting, "They're so good, they broke the damn ring!" And it's like, wow, you've saved this. This is amazing.
What's the one criticism that was aimed at Ospreay and Ricochet around that time, at least, is they're just spot monkeys. They can only do stuff off the top rope.
Yeah.
And I think both of them made a point afterwards of saying, like, we don't need the top rope to have a great match. And they still did, and it was wonderful.
One of my favourite moments was Ricochet pulling the slack top rope to the middle of the ring while people are trying to like fix it. But he just pulled it back. He's like, "Give me 2 seconds." Put it down, and I pretended to climb the top rope, and then just hit like a stand-in shooting star press onto Ospreay, and the crowd went mental.
It also led to Ospreay tweeting, I think something like the gif of them doing it and breaking, and he was like, "Ricochet still landed on his feet, the bastard," because Ospreay falls and gets back up.
He like slows down somehow and just sort of rolls back to his feet like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
And it's just like, what?
They still just had an amazing match. It was crazy.
And then he pulled double duty.
He did.
Yeah.
So
Nuts.
later on there was a tag match, and I can't remember all of the teams. So there was
Johnny Moss and Liam
Moss and Slater. Moss had a worked injury in that match, so he was like, "Do it yourself, Liam." But that's why they lost the belts, because they only had one person.
I think Prospect were in there.
Drake was one of them.
Prospect were
It
trying to
wasn't
get
the
to
usual
Orlando.
lineup. It was Drake and one of Archer or Gracie.
Okay.
I think.
I think it was Grace.
I'm sure it was.
Oh no!
Archer
did
and
Drake
Gracie.
interfere?
Drake interfered.
Yeah,
on
Yes.
that half, yeah.
There
And there was
was
one more team.
No, there was two more teams.
Were there?
There
Were
was
there 5
there was
The Swords of Essex.
Kid, and there was the Swords of Essex, and there was Kid and who was the
Kid
team?
and
Amin, it was
Ligero.
Amin, 'cause he
It
did
was-
the-
Kid and Ligero.
No, it was Amin came out. It was Kid and Ligero with
Yes.
Amin. Who,
Oh, because
yeah.
I think it
He
was
did
one of the first times he did the whole new world.
But he did it off
He
the
did
ladder,
it,
right?
but he wasn't in the
Yeah.
match. Yeah, and the Swords of Essex, and usually it would be Paul Robinson and Scotty Wainwright, but it was Ospreay and Scotty.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Whoa!" Like Ospreay's doing double duty. That was one of my favorite matches. I was watching most of it like that because I thought everyone was
Yeah.
going to die, but it was fantastic.
Well, the point where they're walking the bloody ladders across the ring, but they're like hopping with them. And I was like, first off, I was like, it's going to leave track marks all over the bloody canvas. Second, it was just like, I just don't fall.
Yeah.
Because like, ladders are precarious enough, but when
Yeah.
you're in something with a massive spring in the middle of it that bounces like hell.
I can't even get over just how precarious that
Yeah.
ladder in the ring is.
Yeah.
I remember climbing it and being terrified.
Well,
because
before the
it's
show?
wobbling all yeah, just
Yeah.
having to play about pretending to be a wrestler. But the finish was amazing. Gabriel Kidd looked like he's about to win it, and then Ospreay runs up, Oscutter off the top.
Runs up a diagonal ladder.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
sensational.
But it's just this vertical drop.
Yeah.
It's not even, it's
So
just
good.
straight down.
yeah,
And
it
then
was great.
he was horrible to you backstage.
He was horrible to me backstage. I was blamed for the ring breaking.
Yes.
And I didn't even sell the ring that day. I was skiving. So,
This is in kayfabe.
in kayfabe, but no, because I didn't know what he was planning on doing, and at the time, I didn't really know him that well. But I was walking around just backstage, and he just walked past. He was like storming about after his match with Ricochet, buzzing because the match was good.
Yeah.
He walks past me and goes, "Perfect, you!" and grabs me, and he's like, "Come on, come over here." I'm like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "Just react, just go with it." I was like, "All right." And you'll still see it online. There's the video where he slaps me about with his glove, jumps on my chest on the floor, which didn't hurt because
It's
he's
amazing.
a
Distribution
wizard.
of weight and
He
he's-
just
yeah,
rolled
he's
off my
magical.
chest.
Was it like a coup de grace?
Yeah,
But
but like a
stand-
mini one standing, but
Yeah.
it just didn't hurt, and he fully landed on like my body, but it just rolled off. And afterwards, I was like, "How did you do that?" And he went, "I'm gentle." I was like, "What?" But yeah, he blames me for breaking the ring, and I remember I watched it back. People noticed in the comments that we're both trying not to laugh quite a lot. But he goes like, "You, how many wins did I have? How many did Ricochet have? I had 4 wins, you had 4. How many you got now?" And I'm like, 5. And he just goes, "Rah!" And he just slaps me with the glove. And people enjoyed it so much that it started this weird thing.
Which still is
Which
around today.
Ospreay's-
Whenever I see stuff tweeted about like Will and YouTube, or there was a lot of it yesterday,
Yeah.
people saying it was one of their favourite moments.
People
Just
call it a feud, which is disgraceful because Ospreay's had so many great feuds. Ricochet, Skull, Kushida, like,
Yeah.
and it's like not a feud, but
It's my favourite Will Ospreay feud. I feel like it's a very one-sided feud. I can't remember the last
like-
time that you got any offense in.
I won by
think
count-out
this is
once,
why
but
he
no.
wins- I like to think this is why he wins Wrestlers of the Week.
no, it's
every
not.
week.
No, it's
Because
not.
you're just terrified of him.
Yeah, he blames me for breaking the ring in the thing, and I in the thing I even go like I didn't set the ring up. What are you talking about? It all led to my favorite moment, of course, because I mention it all the bloody time.
Yeah.
The super kick heard around the world, as I've called it in the notes in all
Yeah.
caps.
I've
why
never
don't
heard that before.
you take this over? We'll do a slow zoom in post of you the entire time.
It was in Leicester in the academy, which was a great venue by the
Oh,
way.
it's
It had
a
that
lovely venue, yeah.
metal upper level where
Yeah.
people bang on it when something exciting
And it
happened.
went all around the ring.
Yeah, and me and Kirby came out. At this point, I'm like the assistant GM sort of, and it was Will and Scotty the other side of the ring, and all I knew was that I was taking the super kick when Kirby said, "You can't do what you want," and he went, "Yeah, I can." Bang, and I was so scared because I'm getting kicked in the face. Like, and I know it's Will Ospreay. He's not going to hurt me. He's too good. But I was still really scared, of course. And I remember before I'm being like, "Is there anything you want me to do? Should I put my hands up?" He was like, "No, don't do that. All I want you to do is just don't bottle it." And I was like, "Oh God," because I knew that I was going to be worried that when he was going to kick me, I was going to go like that or duck or just anything instinctive that you would do. So I'm stood like that with my hands clenched behind my back. And you can see on the video, I start to turn my chin towards him because I know it's coming way too early. And he kicked me. It felt more like a push. I bit my tongue. It was just bleeding afterwards, but it was fine. And I love it because JR is the commentator. And he just goes like, "Oh my God." It's like, yes, I've got like a JR by God. And
I remember being quite envious of you.
you got put through a table by
No, not because of this. It's because I got super kicked at a later date by the Young Bucks. And I was like, "Oh, okay, Jack's done this." And I thought you'd done it spectacularly. I thought it was great because nobody was expecting it and it was sold really, really well. And then I remember doing something upstairs in one of the rooms at the Manchester venue with the Young Bucks and bottling it. Putting my hands up. I just thought, "Oh, it looks crap. That looks absolutely bollocks."
You are taller though.
Yeah.
It might have actually, I don't know.
No, I just went like that and it was just a bit awkward.
There's one thing about this venue I've just remembered, which I might have mentioned it to you before, Jack. As we were setting up through the day, obviously the wrestlers, because we'd just come from another show, they were all pretty much at the venue quite early. And one of the first things we'd set up is commentary, because you need to make sure that relay's working, all the live cameras, everything. So to test that it was working, because it took a feed from my mixer, I just ran the prior night show on the mixer. And I'm like listening back and like commentary feeds there and my testing mics. And I've just still got the headphones on and it's running. And I think I'm going through stuff. I'm just going through the running order and checking that all the VTs are there and everything. And then I just hear Will Ospreay and Ricochet talking and commentating over their own match. And it was one of the best, weirdest, funniest things. They were just putting on fake accents and like just taking the piss out of each other, and it was just brilliant. And I was just sort of sat there, and I was like, I felt like I was intruding, so I just took them off. But it was just funny watching them sit there.
I loved watching wrestlers watch their own matches back. I won't say who it was who did it, but watching a match back with Travis Banks once, he's like, "Yeah, he's about to give me a shoot DDT. There we go." And he did like, shoot DDT. No idea what was going on. I was like, one more thing about the super kick as well. I'm lying on the floor not selling, just knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. I'm not rolling around. I'm just like pretending to be dead. And Drew McIntyre runs out to save the day. Turns into a tag match, Drew and Kirby against the Swords of Essex. But because Drew's so tall, he gets in the ring and it hurt more than the super kick, knees me in the side of the head. I can't sell it because I'm knocked out. I'm just like, yeah.
I'd never heard that before.
Did he just like kneel on you or something?
No, he slid in and just his knee went like into the side of my head. I was like,
that's
you
not
just
a guy
got
that you want to take a
collateral
knee
damage
from.
I assumed that was what happened, and I watched it back, and it was. But I just thought that was what, because I was like,
so you
face
took a
down.
super kick and technically, I guess, a
Claymore.
claymore.
So that was a great moment, and it has it's sort of plagued him ever since. I remember he came back from like a tour of Australia or something, and he was like, I saw him in London, and he was like, "I was at a press conference. First question, why did you super kick Jack the Jobber?" I'm like.
He loves it though. When he was to do Straight to Hell and you did the interview with him, he was so keen, even before the cameras were rolling, to chop you, or kick you, or do anything.
He
He
promised
to hurt
He
you.
promised 1 million views, which is it's not on that many. It's on
No, I think it's done maybe
under 100k.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get back to chop you again.
No.
Just tacking on.
No, he's
10 times and we're going to get to 1 million.
Yeah, that's how it works. We also around this time had shows like Chain Reaction in London, which I actually wasn't at.
This was a blur to me this time because it was a straight run. But what had happened here was that we could no longer continue. I think this was around the time we could no longer continue loaded due to ad revenue problems, and we went to a monthly format.
Okay.
And so we build up to these shows, which we had to keep storylines going, but on a monthly basis. So you had to shoot so much more promo stuff, which would be released, and it was so like. Not drawn out, but it was so like intricate in how you had to do it, and then like it was drawn out in the way it had to be released. And I can't really remember much. I remember like being at the shows in certain moments, but like Bulletproof, I remember some of the main event. I remember Daniels being there, but I just remember being really stressed.
Gabriel Kidd in the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
For one night only.
Was that Bulletproof? Was that
Yeah,
Nottingham?
Bulletproof. Yeah, it was Manchester.
Bulletproof.
It was Manchester.
Was it
It was
Manchester?
in Bowlers. It was
I
in the
thought it
big
was
room with the
Nottingham.
star.
Oh,
Gabe definitely joined the Bullet Club.
He's
on the
Nottingham 'cause he
Wikipedia.
was the hometown
Gabe wrestled
boy.
Johnny Mundo in Nottingham.
That was it.
Yeah, he joined Bullet Club in.
I know, worth mentioning at this point, he's still, I almost said undefeated, the opposite. He's still defeated at this point. One of the best storylines
Yes.
Yeah.
in WCPW history was the slow burn, and it was a slow burn build of Gabe losing every match. I think he was on something like 20, 25 and
I
0.
just wish he'd
and then
kept using his polyphonic ringtone entrance music.
yeah.
we also around this time had wrestlers the likes of Matt Riddle, the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Christopher Daniels, people who were huge names then even, but have now sort of taken over the wrestling world in a way.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to see our promotion as it was at the time being sort of like not a stepping stone, but like a place where they'd go and and it was crazy. It was a really exciting time, but as you say, like I remember those first few shows so vividly, and these once it got more frequent, less so.
I think it just when it was these shows, and I think I was stressing a lot about live production because I was always trying to improve it, or we were always trying to make it better, and it was just like there were so many things where I just wasn't capable of doing it, or I didn't have the know-how, and I was getting more stressed, and it just all turned into this big blur. And then
well, you know what's even more stressful than running a show in the UK is running one overseas. So that's what we did in Orlando over WrestleMania 33 weekend. Again, really thankful to everyone who came along.
Yeah.
It was our one and only show outside of the UK.
It was-
No,
No,
wasn't what I'm
Canada.
talking about.
No.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later. It was our first
Germany.
first show outside of the UK. And it was logistically very tricky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I, you know what? I don't think it was one of the better shows. The venue was weird anyway because it was just like
The
a big
venue was-
basketball
Well,
hall.
this was the thing was like the venue were like you're allowed to do the music and the stage and all that stuff, but it was going to look like a super generic low rent indie because we couldn't have lighting rigs and stuff. We just had to use downlight, and it was always going to look a bit like a basketball court. But the thing was like we can still have the music and we can still make it work, and it was like great. And then they were like, you can't have the music because there is like a prenatal yoga class on next door.
Amazing.
And it was like separated by these like
Bobby Fish
like
there.
nets,
Oh, right.
like these big like rubber nets that sort of you could make noise and it would go through it. So they were like, no, you can't do it. So well, the crowd are loud anyway. Like it doesn't matter. Like so we had to use this like 15-watt guitar amp on half volume for music, and it was just I remember. Every time the woman left, Peter was just like, turn it up. And then she'd come back and she'd be like, can you turn it down a bit? It's getting a bit loud.
The mic kept breaking as well, which didn't help things.
Yeah.
Kenny was doing some sort of interview segment
It
or an
was-
opening promo or something,
yeah.
and it just kept
But
cutting out.
we
It was
weren't working with our usual team, and the whole thing with because if you remember how odd the warehouse shows were compared to how it would become when we were running regularly and cutting it live, like we had built this team of people that just got each other. Like I knew I could cut to ringside on that because that person will have that shot. I can cut to hard because they'll have that shot, and I could almost instinctively do all this stuff. But when you sort of like, I knew Simon would hit all the music cues. I knew the lights would go at this time. I knew that would happen because you all just sort of form a bond.
Yeah.
And you all know how each other work. And then when you've got this sort of team you've never worked with before, and they've never worked with the people that are running like the higher, and like, it's just it was just weird.
It wasn't our best show. It did have me winning the DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship twice. It had Drew Galloway, soon to be McIntyre's second last appearance.
Is
Or one of his last appearances.
last appearances,
We
yeah.
found out after this show that he was going back to
Yes.
WWE.
Yeah.
He, I think, main evented against Rampage.
Yeah, I think he did.
I don't remember that, which is weird because I actually watched the show. I didn't have anything to do because there was no like commentary talk back. Worth mentioning commentary. Jim Cornette and was it Stryker there? Or
Yes, it was Striker.
It was Striker.
Because
Ross
when I was-
for
for a
one
bit.
period, it was Ross.
So my favourite moment ever. There was this guy that was there who I've been watching on YouTube for ages. His name's Tommy. It's Tommy NC 2010, and he's a great guy. Really love him. And he put himself in the front row despite not having a front row ticket, which is great anyway because he can do what he likes because I love him. And then he had to leave early, and Ross is on commentary, doing commentary for a match. This is during a match.
It's
and
the
Tommy
triple threat, I think.
Yeah,
With Jim Cornette.
With Jim Cornette. Ross is nervous anyway. And he'd met Ross earlier, really liked Ross.
Ross is
big fan.
commentator of the year. Why is he nervous?
And Tommy went up to him, tapped him, while he's commentating on the match and just goes, Ross, I've just got to go and get my bus now. And you just hear Ross go, all right, see you later. And then realise what's going on. So
Fantastic.
funny.
The thing that I'll always remember about this show was that I had been on the road with Jim Cornette for a few days before this. I think I had been gone like for about a week, but I hadn't been in the States for a week. But there was a period of time where the show wasn't quite completely finalized. And then I left and took some time off and then flew over to do the stuff with Cornette and Kenny. And then we're just, merrily chugging along the road, shooting road stories and doing all this stuff. And then we arrive at the venue and Kenny has to break it to Cornette after finding out that he's calling a match that has Joey Ryan in it.
Famous dick wrestler,
Yeah,
Joey Ryan.
And I just remember going like, I'm just going to step away. Like, I don't know, like, it was just one of those things.
They
and
are philosophically opposed wrestling people.
They are. They're like sort of... it's there's no other way to put it.
Talking
cheese.
Yeah.
We got back from... That was the show. The thing is, I don't remember the show that clearly because in Orlando... It wasn't just WCPW. We were doing WhatCulture stuff. We were going to WrestleMania. We were doing all these things. So it was just one part of a really busy and crazy trip.
Yeah.
We came back, and I don't know what order to do this in because, well, let's do the qualifiers first because this is when we announced the WCPW PWWC, the WhatCulture Pro Wrestling World Cup.
Yes.
Yes. It was an ambitious tournament. I think in hindsight, right. Despite what a logistical nightmare it was and how complicated it was and how long it was, I think it actually went all right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they had one person pull out. I think Elgin did the Canada show and then ended up not doing it, which we'll get to.
Which
in
led to a
bit
great
as well.
moment, yeah.
But no, I genuinely huge props to especially Peter and James Dixon as well.
Yes.
Because the logistics that went into this are insane.
Yeah.
And then 5 Star Wrestling announced that they would be doing a 128-man tournament.
Yes.
But that didn't happen because
So-
CM Punk was unavailable.
They would have dicked all over our tournament to be fair.
Yeah, no, this was absolutely. Some of the matches here were just so good, and all of the shows were really fun. They were well attended, and big moments throughout.
I'll try and touch on each one very briefly, but not all of us went to all of these.
I went to every
but one of us went to at least one. Right, you and everyone. England was first, and I want to give a special shout out to. Do you remember Brad Pepper? He was the lad who sang the national anthem at the start.
He was great, yeah.
He was great. We started off with the English national anthem for the English qualifier, and he got invited along, I think just on like a last minute call of any singers out there who are wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Came along with his little brother, and he was kind of nervous. And then I had to sit with his little brother in the crowd, saving his seat while look after his brother as a kid.
Yeah.
And he went and sang it, and I was like, he seems quite nervous, and the kid was like, yeah, he is, but he'll be great. And I was like, oh, and he was great. And he himself was only a young lad. He was probably like 18, 19.
I remember the plan was to do some sort of variation on that, so like a national anthem or something
Everyone.
for each of the shows.
Yeah.
And I don't think it happened because they were going to get. Did they get bagpipes for Scotland?
I think they did, yeah.
Germany, there wasn't.
No.
USA, and then I remember them brainstorming for rest of the world, and it'd be like, well, we get lots of people from different nationalities all in the middle. Okay, yeah, sure.
I don't remember that.
Oh my God,
I'm sad that didn't happen.
Just sing all the anthems at once.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Then there was, yeah, it was mad. Scotland.
Who's that? It's Winnie Mandela. Scotland, I didn't go.
I can't remember much of the Scotland one.
Scotland was Motherwell. It was the only time we ran Motherwell. Motherwell.
Yeah, of
Motherwell.
course, I forgot about Motherwell.
Drew.
It was a nice venue.
Did Drew go through?
No,
he'd gone.
Drew had gone by this point.
Joe Coffey,
Joe
Kenny
Coffey got
Williams.
through because he faced someone. Later.
Kenny Williams.
Kenny Williams got through.
Yeah.
That was it. There's only 2 from each.
Yeah.
So the England one was Osprey and
Yeah,
Zach.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a nice venue. It was odd, but it was a good show.
Germany. I didn't go.
So
We had-
good. Oh,
yeah.
that was my favourite trip ever. I did no work.
Yeah,
it was so
it
fun.
annoyed me so much.
Well,
I'm at
you
ringside.
had nothing to do.
I'm at ringside, and you were just sat getting drunk, and I'm like,
Yeah, I got
this
winded.
is so annoying. But like, we ran these shows in association with GWF, the German Wrestling Federation.
Great guys.
There were people on this card like
Cash Money Erkan. Cash Money Erkan.
Who has belting
He's
entrance
so
music.
good.
There was
Pascal Spalter.
Pascal Spalter.
Was like a German Grado.
Yeah,
Dark Mark, he was in the Cruiserweight Classic.
Bad Bones, Lucky Kid.
Lucky Kid, and then there was supposed
Rambo.
to be Crazy Sexy Mike, but
He's crazy. He's sexy. He's mine.
But crazy Sexy Mike, his wife.
You loved this trip, didn't you?
It's so fun.
Can I go to the toilet while you talk about this, by the way? Like, genuinely, can I just run the toilet?
So, like, Crazy Sexy Mike was supposed to be in the show, but his wife went into labour. And he was replaced by Rambo El Generalissimo Rambo.
Oh, God, Rambo was so good.
But we got to see a GWF show the night before, and it was great. Like, the atmosphere was great. I love that they have these fans that have these confetti guns. And when people were making the references and were shooting it in 50 FPS, and you're getting all this confetti coming down in slow motion and stuff, it was really nice. I liked that.
Crazy Sexy Mike was terrific. Cash Money Erkin, I think, who went through on this? Was it Kid?
It was Lucky Kid and Bad Bones.
Kid and Bones.
Because
Bones they ended up using quite a lot. Bones was good.
I think Bad Bones had worked for GWF in the past, but then left to go to WXW because he just only ever worked for WXW because the fans who were loyal to GWF did not like Bones. They didn't like Bones to start with. And especially because he was going up against Pascal Spalter, who was like their guy. Even though he was heel, they were cheering for Spalter. And then very slowly Bad Bones won them over. And then by the end of his second match, they were rooting for him and they wanted him to win so badly. And then I think he just dove into the crowd after his match and they all accepted him.
I'm glad you remember this because I was so pissed.
You were wankered.
I was absolutely wankered.
I could hear you shouting and stuff.
Cash Money Erkan!
My favourite thing about Cash Money Erkan was that whenever he hit a pump handle slam, he shouted it. He went, pump, handle, slam!
And like Pokemon.
Yeah, it was
Use
great.
claw. That was a really good show. Berlin's one of my favourite cities. That was legit my favourite WCPW show ever.
The only thing I was annoyed about was because we were only there for a couple of days, so didn't get to see much of Berlin.
You had some
I've
schnitzel?
never been to Berlin. I didn't have schnitzel.
Brilliant
I
city.
ate currywurst and drank a lot of lovely beer. But yeah, then we went to Canada, which I don't think you were in Canada, were you?
No, I was I had a wedding or something.
Yeah, I was in Canada with the crew and the wrestlers, and we were all there for 48 hours.
That's not enough time to explore Toronto properly, is it?
No, but we got to see a Smash wrestling show, and Smash are a great company. You should check them out. A lot of really great talent coming out of there. And then we ran our show the same night, straight after theirs. It was sort of like, I think they ran like a matinee, and we came along. We had Jimmy Corderas refereeing.
Did you seriously?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And he was like lovely to meet and talk to.
Who went through from Canada? It was Elgin.
Elgin, and was it Davey Boy Jr.?
Was he... Did he get through? I thought he got beat in the... I can't think who else it would be. Maybe it was.
I don't think it was Brent Banks.
It was.
No,
was it not Kyle O'Reilly?
Yeah, I think it was Kyle O'Reilly.
But then I wasn't at the show when... No.
I can't even remember.
Who went through... No, who else was in it? We can work this out.
Rene Dupree.
It wasn't him.
So it was Rene Dupree, Elgin, who went through, Harry Smith or Davey Boy Jr., whatever you want to call him.
Maybe he did.
I think he went through. Then
I just don't remember seeing him again.
No. Brent Banks, I think.
Did he just really impress?
Brent Banks was like super, super impressive.
Right.
Sleeper hit.
He was on the Progress show the other week.
Yeah. He deserves it. He's great.
Oh, it was Speedball.
Speedball.
Of course it was.
So good.
Jesus.
Yeah,
He's doing amazing.
Somebody is watching this and screaming that the entire time.
Yeah.
Next is USA.
That was in Manchester.
Yes.
I spent most of the show hanging out with my mate in the crowd. I just Skyped. No, I was doing Jack the Vlogger stuff. So I was running around with a GoPro.
Unlike Jack, that.
Hey, I was running around with a GoPro, shooting bad footage because I'm not a cameraman. And
one of my favourite GoPro moments ever was, I think, at one of these shows where you had been going around filming a load of cool stuff, except you'd had it backwards.
Yeah, it was just my face reacting to stuff.
So just going like,
all right.
Yeah, the lens is right there.
It's because it was Girls' Entrance, there was fire. I was like,
I think I left it in the edit.
That's great.
Who went through from USA?
Ricochet.
and
Keith Lee?
No,
Ricochet beat him.
Yeah.
Who went through from Jay Lethal?
Might have been Jay.
I think it might have been Jay, yeah.
No, was he in it?
I think he was.
Who was it, man? Ricochet?
We should have written this down.
Oh, was it James Storm? No?
I don't think he went through.
Okay.
Anyway, Japan, also in Manchester.
I was at a festival for this one, so I didn't know.
Japan was my
Badger Fest, I
personal highlight. Like,
No, it
I
wasn't
loved
Badger
that.
Fest.
Oh, it was a
Blue
great
Dot.
show. I'd never seen Ishii before. Because
You've
I'm not
never
much of a
seen
New
Ishii?
Japan guy. And then Ishii Rampage, and you just told me it's just going to be like two bricks colliding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was one of my
Yeah.
favourite matches that WCPW
Yeah.
have ever put on.
It's-
They're all amazing.
Referee by Tiger Hattori.
Yeah,
legendary.
refereed by Tagatori, and he got such an ovation when he came out.
I loved-
But I just remember the argument was, well, this is the main event, and it's Ishii Rampage. Where do we put Liger? And it was like, well, he's gonna have to go on later, and it was like, no, put him on
Put him first.
And I think like everybody who was saying put him on first eventually won, because it wasn't just me saying that, but I think like we all decided he should go out first. But yeah, when you hear that music hit, like the stabs of Liger's music, and the crowd went mental, and he just walks out full on like shoulder pads, cape, and the crowd just went wild.
It was great.
We had a Japanese speaking ring announcer.
Yeah.
It was just so well done.
Watching it back, because obviously I wasn't there live, watching it back, I loved how knowledgeable the fans were for that show.
Yeah.
Like, they responded to everyone, and it was fantastic. And tell you who was super over was Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah.
Everyone loved the cat, Daryl. Everyone
Yeah.
loved Daryl.
He brought Daryl out to commentary.
He did. He put a little headset on.
A little headset on, yeah.
I really liked, because I'd not seen him before, what's your boy? Funky Weapon.
Taguchi.
Taguchi, yeah, I thought he was really fun.
Who
Taguchi's
Dixon's wife
class.
said looked like me. yeah.
Okay,
like an
sure.
English
Oh, he
Taguchi.
reminds me of Jack. I was like, all right.
Bushi, of course.
Bushi. Who went
Tiger
through
Mask
from it?
4.
Kushida.
It was
Kushida.
Takahashi and Kushida.
Takahashi, of course.
Yeah.
Then we had Mexico, which was in Coventry, naturally. This was a big show in the history of WCPW. Now, I've done these slightly out of order because the World Cup qualifiers took place in and around normal shows.
Yeah.
So, but this was the show where Henry won the belt. I think, maybe. Was it not? I think it
Mexico,
was.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
I remember the green rope.
Yeah.
That was a big moment, which I'd like to just now, actually, can we just reveal? That was a work, and we worked all of you. Kirby wasn't injured.
I can't believe you've done that.
Well, I just want
I can't
to. I just
believe
want to be
you've done
right
this.
because I
People were
remember
livid.
I was getting so angry reading comments like, "Well, WCPW are unsafe. They should
Yeah,
just
yeah.
call off the match." I was like,
What people didn't notice about that was that the paramedic that came running down had been at ringside all night as the photographer.
It was
So-
me.
the paramedic was Moose.
It was-
Not everyone should realize.
I'm not sure it was the right decision, but it was
No.
sold to perfection.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
It was really, really
Both of them
well
did
done.
really well.
Yeah.
I remember Hendry after the bell had rung. He didn't even pin him. I think the match just got waved off. I remember him just like almost Connors-esque, ironically, just like on his front, just grabbing the belt and across the
there's a
ropes.
shot when I redid the intro and we did that 3D intro, and I was immensely proud of that intro. I loved doing that. The shot was like Hendry with the belt, and he's getting in the camera's face after it's happened, and he just sort of like, because we were shooting again in 50 FPS, so we could slow it down to half speed like smoothly. And he's just like thrusting the belt through the ropes at the camera and mouthing off. And it's one of the closing shots of the original like 3D new intro
Right,
when
right.
we did it. And it's just, he looks
Yes.
so threatening.
It's great.
This is where the most watched match, which is on something like 46 million.
No.
Yeah,
it's
seriously,
mental.
it got picked up by the algorithm. Rey Mysterio versus El Patron. Absolute, like it was a really great match as well.
It wasn't even the final of the block. It was one of the first round matches, wasn't it?
First round match because who went out? Del
Mysterio
Rio
went
out.
through.
Mysterio
Yeah, yeah.
went through. Yeah.
Who was the other one who went through from Mexico?
It was
It wasn't
the
Lee.
Juice.
Oh, it was Juice.
It wasn't.
No,
it wasn't Hooven
Hoovy, it wasn't Hoovy.
It wasn't
He,
Leaks.
he came out with a WCW Cruiserweight title,
Nice.
didn't he?
I think
Was it?
I think a fan had given him it earlier in the day to come out with.
Oh, I thought he was carrying that around with him.
No, I'm
Oh,
pretty sure
okay.
it was
Who-
like a
Good
fan.
work.
had
Who
brought
went
one.
through? Was it Phoenix? Was it Leaks? Was it Ligero?
Was it not Penta?
Oh, was it Pentagon?
Because I think we had Phoenix versus Penta as one of the semis on that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Pentagon would
I
have made
love
sense.
Leaks being in there.
Yeah.
The
Oh, it
funny.
was
I remember
great.
there being a
Leeds.
lot of discussion. It's just, well, it's all fake anyway. Just put Leeds in there. All right, yeah, go on then. From Leeds.
I think that was a particularly good quality one. And then we had Rest of the World, which to me felt, I guess maybe because it was just back in Newcastle, didn't feel as big. But it had, Travis Banks, who was one of the most consistent guys throughout WCPW.
Yep.
He went through, I believe.
Yeah, I think Banks
Yeah, I
did.
think Banks went
Did he
through.
beat Mark
and
Davis?
I think he did, and the other one
Jan
was...
Simmons?
Jan Simmons, I think,
Was there?
Jan was
Um,
there.
I'm thinking of every other country in the world now.
your
Icarus?
neon boy, what's he called
Icarus.
again?
Oh,
Icarus was great.
Angelico.
Angelico
Angelico
went
was
through.
there.
Yeah, right.
Where's he from?
But-
New Zealand.
South Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah.
But Icarus was somebody who impressed massively when we were over in Berlin.
Oh.
I think we saw him.
He's
wrestling
Hungarian,
with,
isn't he?
Yeah, with GWF. But he's part of a tag team called I think there's the Arrows of Hungary.
Okay.
I think they've done a Progress show recently. But if you go back and look at some of his like clips and stuff, he's done some crazy like balcony dives.
He's a hardcore guy, yeah.
He's not even like hardcore. He's just flippy and mental and
Was
great.
it Mean in there from Gujarat Bradford?
No,
Gujarat, India.
no,
I'm
it was
pretty
RJ
sure
Singh.
Was
It was
RJ
Singh,
Singh.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, no, we were
Great,
talking-
great.
He represented in.
Yeah.
He, no, he
It was
represented.
going to be a Mean. It was
No,
going to be a
wait.
Mean.
Did RJ Singh's dual nationality? Did he represent Trinidad and Tobago?
He
I
might
think
have done.
he
Yeah.
did. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Not sure. Anyway, it was a good show. I remember Flash Morgan Webster was in there as well from
Yes.
Wales. Yeah, and that was the last qualifier, and then we moved on to this like. Right, I don't know whether to talk about No Regrets first or the 5-day World Cup tour
We
because
talk about the 5-day
No
tour, 'cause
regrets.
We're already talking about World Cup.
No Regrets came earlier, but
Yeah.
felt more final, whereas the World Cup stuff was later, but was linked to this. So yes, there was a big 5-day tour, which was the most strenuous thing we've ever done, but it was great. I loved it, despite being knackered all the time. People, I guess, must have assumed we were traveling right up and down the country because it went Milton Keynes, Leeds, Manchester, Sheffield, Newcastle.
Yeah.
Instead, we had Manchester as a hub, one
Yeah,
hotel,
it
and
sort
we'd
of
go
went
out like a
around.
wheel,
Yeah.
and it was like long. Well,
Yeah.
I get why they did that, you know. It did make more sense, I think, in the end.
Yeah, it makes more sense than up and down in all the different hotels, but
Because we weren't just going north to south or south to north,
Yeah.
we were going like everywhere.
across and
I actually had it really easy on this tour.
I
You
forgot
did,
I was
yeah.
gonna ask
Me
about
and
that.
Wilborn were shooting a documentary at the time, and so we just hung around with the wrestlers. So instead of like packing down with everyone else and taking
That
all the lighting
screen.
down,
Oh, the screen.
I know, I love doing the screen. Taking that screen down
screen's
was the
like-
highlight of my night.
big
Genuinely,
stickle
I really,
bricks.
Yeah,
Big-
it's really really
big,
fun.
very,
Clunk, clunk,
very,
clunk.
very expensive stickle
Yeah,
bricks.
put it in the boxes.
But
Oh, I
then
love it.
sometimes you'd like undo one, but it wouldn't come out, and then you'd undo another one, and it would just go "Ugh,"
Yeah.
and
It
drop, and you
wasn't-
were like, "Ah!"
It wasn't fun when you were tired or hungover, lads. So
It was one of the easy.
No, I
I
liked it.
would
It was
take that
easy.
screen down and put that screen up 1,000 times rather than
Yeah.
take that ring and
You
put
take,
it in
you
once.
take your
Yeah.
sweet time with it as well.
yeah,
you really
yeah,
do,
and we'd all
yeah.
be like, "Oh, come on!" I just remember.
Do you need a hand with that? Two people holding.
I'd look
The-
forward to it less and less because Sam was in a worse and worse mood each night.
Oh.
And I was like, I've got to go and talk to
I
Sam. now and take the
got, I
screen
got
down.
one night off in Sheffield because Sheffield was a loaded taping. And I just sat in the booth, like, losing my mind, like, just trying to relax. But it was just, yeah. And the thing with that screen as well was, I remember it was at the final, we had to be so careful putting it up because for some reason it was, like, hanging weird.
Yeah.
And it was starting to put pressure on itself. But if it puts too much pressure, it'll start pushing out and just damaging the panels. So it's
Right.
like, I
And they
remember
were
being really
expensive.
stressed. But yeah, it's like
Um,
very, very expensive.
Yeah, I just
So
pissed off after every show. As soon
so
as
the
it
buzz-
finished, me and the wrestlers straight away
you and your
off to
boys
McDonald's.
Trevor and
back
yeah,
to
all
the
the
hotel.
lads. What was it like shooting that documentary on the bus?
Well, we didn't.
Yeah, right.
Because we did get stuff filmed for the documentary, which never made it. I think it was meant to go on WhatCulture Extra. But essentially, like, all of the wrestlers were knackered. They'd been paid
Yeah.
for their matches and not to be filmed when we're on the bus.
This
so
was
we were
their
on there,
downtime.
yeah, exactly. And they're all doing stuff which they wouldn't want to be featured in a documentary.
Well, just chatting to their rivals,
Nah,
to the
sucking
people
each
they.
other off. No, I'm just, God, no, they're just they're dicking about and they're your downtime. You don't
Yeah,
want to be
yeah,
filmed.
yeah,
It
of
is.
course.
So we didn't get that much film. So I think the documentary turned into Wilborn learning to wrestle.
What?
It's probably a good thing it never saw light. To be honest.
I remember you in a skip at one point.
Yeah.
on my
Why
Instagram.
did I get in
you
a
could barely
skip?
get out of that. It was where you lived.
You climbed a
Yeah,
ladder
Because you,
up
there was a
into
whole
the
my
skip.
team's
thing.
doing it.
Yeah,
I lived in the skip.
yeah. You just lived in a skip.
wasn't
I think we
just
were
a-
desperate for ideas.
It was a
Yeah.
skip that was like a story up as well.
Yeah,
It was a high
Yeah.
skip.
it was an industrial skip.
Why was I in a skip?
Because you lived there. It was where you lived.
Yeah, you went up there at the end. You're like,
Sure.
oh, like Wilbur was like, "Wake up, Adam, mate." You were like, "What?" It was weird. So we had those shows, and Milton Keynes, I believe, was the site of maybe the biggest pop in WCPW history.
My favorite moment.
Michael Elgin unfortunately pulled out after winning or being one of the two people to go through from the Canada leg. We needed someone to replace him. It wasn't going to be a Canadian. It was too short notice, and WWE did us a favor, basically.
Yeah, very kindly did us a favor.
Joseph Connors had signed with NXT UK, and they let him come back for 2 matches, I think it was, but this was his first one. Joe Coffey's in the ring waiting for his opponent. Blump here comes out and goes, "Your opponent's going to be this man." And the lights go down. And he had such a slow building theme tune, but it had been so long since he'd been there that people had forgotten it.
Yeah.
So There's no one.
And we cut all the video feed to the screen until his name popped up.
Oh,
So there was nothing. There was a bit of static and a bit
Yeah.
of like X, Y, and Z, but like there was no images of it.
and there's like the piano and the.
Yeah. And then
Bang.
bang, and his
Joseph
name
comes
was
out.
on the screen.
Oh
and he comes
my
out.
God.
That reaction
But
was insane.
It's not like when you hear cheers and it gets louder. This was a bark.
It was like,
It was just
yeah.
immediately loud.
It was amazing.
And it just I remember sitting there and commentary were just stunned. Everything was just quiet. Like over comms and everything were just hair just
It was
up on
great.
everybody's arms. And it's
I
just
remember
like,
Connors himself being very happy about this because he had also returned, or he'd done his last thing. Everyone thought he'd gone to WWE, and then he did something at Kirby Mania.
Yeah, right.
And he came in, and the reaction.
Kirby Mania was
just
his
because-
farewell.
Yeah, just because the crowd wasn't especially like hot at Kirby Mania.
Yeah.
Because they were literally
I
freezing.
think he was a little bit disappointed by it.
Right.
So when he came out and that audience went crazy, I remember him coming back through the curtain and just like he said on Twitter numerous times, it's one of his favourite moments
It was
as a wrestler
amazing.
ever. It was so good.
He
and a very
played
good
it
match.
so well though. He was intense. He didn't react to the pop.
Come
really.
on, guys.
Yeah, that's
Go
right.
on, Des,
yeah.
go on.
No,
Connors,
it's like,
of course, he goes through here. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
At the final, and I think that this is the only instance it's ever happened, but we had a WWE contracted wrestler facing a New Japan contracted wrestler
Kushida.
on Kushida on a show affiliated with neither company,
Right.
an independent wrestling show, and I don't think that's ever happened in history.
That's Connors Kushida.
Connors Kushida on an
It's really
indie
cool,
show.
that.
It's sort of like
Yeah.
the WCW, ECW Taz thing, like Michael or something like that. But like, yeah, it's just strange because obviously neither company had affiliation with it, and it was
We then went to Leeds, which I believe had Ricochet versus Legs, maybe, or Ricochet versus Rey Mysterio.
that was a blur.
Yeah, that
show.
was a blur, but I remember enjoying it. I think that might have been the show where Gracie kicked me in the chest as part of the script. Manchester was the other semi-final.
Yeah.
Because Leeds was a loaded taping. Manchester was the other semi-final. That might have been the site of Osprey Speedball. I'm not sure.
That was brilliant. I forgot.
Wherever
that.
it was, that's
Yeah.
regarded as one of the best matches in WCPW history.
Yeah.
It was just two really athletic guys doing ridiculous stuff. Dixon, I think it was his favourite match in WCPW history, I think
Yeah.
he said. And one of the best matches he said he'd seen live. And eventually, then there was another show in Sheffield, which might have been the one where I got kicked at now. But that was also a loaded taping
That's where you got kicked on stage. Yeah.
in a nightclub,
yeah.
a sticky nightclub.
Yeah.
And then the final in Newcastle. And I really loved this show. It was a long show. I remember that. But it led to the final four of, correct me if I'm wrong, Osprey, Ricochet, Kushida, and who was the fourth one? Who did Kushida beat in the semis? Was it Connors?
Connors, yeah.
Right. And that show felt huge because we
Or was
built
it?
up this
No,
whole...
no. Did Takahashi get rid of Connors?
It wasn't Kushida. Oh, was it Kushida Takahashi?
It might have.
No,
I don't
Connors
know,
went out to
so-
Kushida,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Because you said Connors Kushida was that match.
Yeah, I think it must have been. Yeah.
So I remember the two semi-finals were both brilliant. Osprey and Ricochet just charged at each other at the start, Spanish Fly and stuff.
The ring didn't break this time.
The other semi-final was great. It all led to Osprey Kushida. That was the big final, and it was a really good match. And I remember people being shocked, but quite pleased actually that Kushida won. They'd have maybe assumed
I think
that
it was
we
a mixed reaction.
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
it being because people because obviously Osprey is
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember it being mixed. But a lot of like the because people weren't expecting it. I think there were people who were very vocal because they never thought Kushida would win because hey, it's England and it's going to be Will Ospreay. But it was a really, really strong match. And then what happened after was something else.
Yeah. I
You know what? They booked this tournament and it's cost an absolute fortune and it hasn't really played into ongoing WCPW storylines much. I understand the thinking here. You may as well get something out of it, which is why the Prestige, Joe Henry,
and it didn't go out after.
No,
it went out.
It was the first part of the next loaded
That's
episode.
fine,
it
I
was
think.
what
then.
you missed after
That's
the camera
fine, I
stopped
think.
rolling.
Yeah.
So the
But I'll
Prestige came out.
never forget that kid's shriek.
BT Gunn, Joe Hendry, Travis
Coffey.
Binks, and
Joe Coffey.
Liggs. Liggs was
Joe
there.
Coffey.
Coffey and Liggs. I
Yeah.
guess there were five.
I
of
don't
them.
know if Leagues are joined by this point.
Liggs was there because I remember the briefcase.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Anyway, they smashed the trophy up. It took ages because it was really well made, despite the fact that it was off Amazon. They were going to get a trophy made for like 600 quid or something, and then
don't-
smash it up.
Ah,
Why not?
the last days of Rome.
And so they smashed the trophy up. And the first part of the next loaded episode was Blumpio being like sat next to his knackered trophy going, I'm not happy about this. Roll the footage. And you see it. And that led into stuff.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
That's
I
the best thing.
Yeah, it was really good.
This pathetic little trophy.
And we talked about this before, but I remember the baby faces ran out to
It's really got me.
to kill the prestige, essentially. Who was it? It was like Ospreay,
Rampage.
Kushida was...
Ospreay's out there anyway, I guess. Rampage, all the
Ospreay,
all the good guys ran
Rampage
out.
flew down that long ramp.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to fall.
It was a long walkway, that as well.
Don't say what you're going to say.
Right, we've talked about it before. So essentially, like I was doing the talkback thing, and I could cue anyone to say anything. So it was my cue to say to the sound and visual guy, Simon, roll this person's music. So I'd like during a match,
cue this, roll that.
Yeah, exactly. Before a match, it'd be like, okay, going to Joseph Connors in 3, 2, 1, cue music, go, and then. So I was like, right, cue Jack's music. And I remember you were like, your ears pricking up and not quite knowing what, yeah, get Jack's music going. Because we wanted like,
Me to come out and save Kushida from this beatdown.
What would you have done?
I don't know.
You'd have had to go out.
Just starts dancing on the spot.
I think I'd have run out and asked someone to give me a stunner. Maybe.
Kushida, give me a stunner.
Give me a stunner, kid. And then I'd have just gone. Dead. I'm very glad you didn't make me save the day. I remember backstage before that, Ospreay going like instructing everyone like Kushida gets the last stunner. Like you really wanted Kushida to get the last one, which I think was a nice moment. The stunner parties were always fun.
Stunner parties
They were
great.
ridiculous, and I'm glad the wrestlers didn't hate us too much for doing them.
I think most of them didn't. I remember one in Newcastle,
Yeah.
and I hadn't been on the show in ages, and I came out and then I was like, I want to do a promo. And then I want everyone to come out and stun me. And so went out there and ran down like the crowd saying, hey, I founded this company. I'm responsible for starting a promotion in the whole Newcastle. And then started singing Busker, Home Newcastle.
Yeah.
I'm coming home
you just like that
Newcastle.
song.
I like the
Yeah.
song and I like doing the accent badly. And then I remember saying to Dixon, okay, the cue to send the good guys out is the spunky cock dance. And he went, what? What's the spunky cock dance? Just, you'll know. Home Newcastle, I might as well have been in jail. I walk the streets all day, I'll need for a ball of me own brown ale. Like that. And I went, well, like that.
Dixon's like, that's the spunky
cock
cock dance.
That's gotta be it. And then
We all came up.
It was you, Cleary.
It was the YouTube dickheads.
It was the YouTube dickheads.
Coming to save the day.
All came out.
And I remember
Stunner.
we were planning our entrance, and Blummy was like, "Don't worry, guys, I'm in the middle. I'll do that," and we'll walk forward. So we'll stood the side like, "Yeah," and then he goes, and we all go, yeah. I got on one of the side things on the entrance because I'd always wanted to do it. Just hyped up the crowd on the side. Felt like such a dickhead afterwards.
And I remember I'd said to Adam, Cleary, and you, I'm going to no-sell Jack Stunner.
I didn't know what you were doing.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to
Why
get him
me?
to do it 3
It was-
times. I thought it'd be
yeah,
fun because I didn't know what you would do. So
I just
you
think
just
you-
Stunner, you were the last one to do it. And then got up. Come on, Jack, give me another one. You gave me another one. And then I think on the third one, you like kicked me in the balls.
No,
I remember you getting
got-
down and
I
going,
said,
sorry, man.
I'd accidentally, I thought I'd yanked your head too hard.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
But I remember, but you didn't just no-sell my, you no-sold everyone's
No,
stunner.
it was just yours.
No, but everyone else had already stunned you.
Oh, fair point.
So you no-sold everyone's stunner. Then the heels came out, and like Joe
They
Coffey
ran
called
us
us
off.
marks or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
This is the heels of the channel, of course. This is Susie. This is Peter Willis. I'm joking.
he was on the Orlando Video Diary.
Yeah.
Then the heels came out and were about to beat us up, and then I think
You scarpered.
no, the baby faces came out and saved
Babyfaces
us.
came out and saved the day.
Yeah. Oh, is that it?
We all got
Yeah.
out of the ring. And
We were all like
second to
cowering in
last
the
one of us was out
corner.
of the ring.
It was like the end
And
of
then
Toy
they
Story
ran down.
3. We were like, this is it, guys. We're going to get battered by...
They love doing that. Stunner parties were great.
They were fun. Yes, and then the last one I've put on here, the last show to talk about, and then we'll do a quick round of favourites, I guess, a quick lightning round. But the last show on here...
That's my note there.
Was that?
Bollock smash. I'll get to it.
Was No Regrets. That's the last one I've put on here. It was before the World Cup final tour, but it was a big show. It wasn't in the normal Northumbria Uni building. It was in the bigger one, Sports Central.
Sports Central, yeah.
Which looked pretty cool, I thought. It was a long ramp. I remember that. And it was...
It was where the World Cup final was.
It wasn't anywhere near our last show, but it felt like it. It felt like the last show before like before we left and before the rebrand and everything. But this felt really climactic to me. It had so many moments. It had the big rumble, with the story being that Drew was leaving, so we booked a rumble and he had to come in at number 1, and whoever beat him, whoever won the rumble would win the belt.
Yeah.
There was always the case of like, will he win? He was third last eliminated. Henry and Kirby were the last two, and Kirby finally hit the Zoidberg elbow, and there were 2 pops.
Yeah.
Like one for the elbow hitting and one for the pinfall. And shout out to James Armstrong on camera because he stood up
all day. James was there. James had worked for us for a while.
Not a wrestling fan, didn't know about wrestling.
He was one of the film channel editors, and he's like the nicest guy, would do anything. And he had a lot of freelance experience with cameras and stuff, so it was always like a good hand if you just needed somebody to shoot something. James always knew how to sort it. And he was when Kirby hits the elbow and pins, and then it cuts to that side-on angle,
like a diagonal,
where the entire crowd's going wild. It's like a 45-degree angle. James had been there all night, waiting, zoomed in.
He nailed it.
Yeah,
he did.
Every so often we'd do a quick run through of the motion when a VT was running, and he's like, "Yeah, I know exactly. It's fine." And then like the second it happened, and we cut to that shot, I think we all at the table just hugged each other, and it was like,
jizzed your pants right then.
I think it was like it worked out.
It was an amazing moment.
I mean, it gave away the finish, but it was a great shot. Like, you knew that he was pinning him. But when Kirby won, it's just like what everyone had been waiting for since you turned on him, pretty much.
And then lost it the next night, which we did, I'm not sure it was the right call either, because essentially you gave 2 big moments away in one there. Kirby winning the world title, which everyone had been waiting for, and also Kirby hitting the elbow. So I'm not sure if both of those should have happened at the same time. I'm not trying to take anything away because it was an unbelievable moment.
It was great.
But I think that you could have put the title on him later or something like that. But it was great.
Other big moments then when Henry won the belt, he went on a bit of a heel title reign, and then we left the company. He was the champion when we left. He eventually lost it to Skull, Aries, Rampage, Rory Coyle, Rampage, David Starr. That's the lineage of the title. But the champion when we left was Henry. But Kirby won the belt on this show. There were other awesome moments on this show. I think this was it wasn't like the best show we ever did, but it was a really feel-good show. Yeah. There was Gabriel Kidd. Again, Henry was in this match too, because he was in the Rumble and this match. And Cody Rhodes for the IC belt, for the Internet belt. And Cody taking the pinfall from Gabe. I was convinced that Gabe was I knew that Gabe was finally snapping his losing streak and winning. But I thought he pinned Henry. But no, Henry was out the ring, and he rolled up Cody Rhodes and pinned him and won the Internet belt. That was a huge moment as well. Prince Amin versus Brandy Rose was the best match we ever...
Yeah.
It was what it was. It was a comedy match, and it was funny.
It was great.
It was funny. Cody found it funny. But afterwards, I remember him giving like a pep talk to both and being like, "You told a story, you went out there, you did it." And yeah, they did.
I really enjoyed doing that event. Really. I think that was one of my favourite events.
The last moment I have on here is the debut in the Rumble of AJ Hazard.
Yes. The return to wrestling, I guess. But the WCPW debut of AJ Hazard.
The best ever in the world.
How much hair gel had you bought for this, by the way?
I put a whole tub on.
Because you came back stinking.
I did. So I was sat behind commentary the whole time, or sat behind Gorilla rather, and directing commentary. And then at like number 15 or whatever it was, I was just like, right, guys, you're going to lose me for about 5 minutes. Watch this. And then I remember being back behind the curtain, and like Viper was there, Doug Williams was there. And I remember Doug Williams looking me up and down, looking at my pathetic dad bod, flabby mess. I was just like, "You got this, kid? Yep, I've got this, Doug. Don't you worry, baby.
I'm not going to let British wrestling down."
And then you hear the counter, boom, because we cut the opening bit
big
off.
pop for you.
Yeah, it was all right pop.
It was
and
big.
I remember running down. I was like, how can I look as silly as possible? I want everyone here to hate me. I remember just putting my arms out like that, going,
You screamed all the way down.
the whole way.
It was a long ramp as well.
I was like laying into Kirby.
Yes.
And then he turns around, like no selling the punches, and everyone chants "dickhead," which is exactly what I wanted as well. And then Drew and Spud are behind me, which is really cool now. Two WWE
Spud
guys.
debuted. His pop was huge as well.
Spud pop of the night. Well, entrance pop of the night in the Rumble.
Apart from AJ Hazard. Yeah.
Yes, and so they lifted me up, and I took like the shield bomb essentially off those guys. And I think who else was there? There was one of the Mexican wrestlers in there who just sort of joined in for a laugh.
Was it like Drago?
Phoenix?
Yeah,
Like
it might have
Kofi
been
or
Phoenix.
something?
So I took that, and then I said, oh, okay, I've taken the pinfall. I'm already eliminated from the match. I want to go over the top rope as well. That's the one thing in wrestling that I actually know how to do. I learned how to do that properly. And I was practicing all day. I was like, boom, boom, yeah. Boom, boom, yeah. Boom, boom, yeah. So went to do it. Kirby walks me up so gently. He's like, 3, 2, 1, over the top rope. Bang, bang, bang. Trap my bollocks. One of my balls just went between my leg. And I just remember going, the noise that I made. And then just humbling backstage.
Limped back, still in your gear, smelling like just sweaty as hell, covered in hair gel, stinking of Tiger Balm.
You
and
see
deep
that,
heat.
lads? I'm a wrestler.
Just sitting there going, can I
Yeah,
get
that
changed
pop.
yet? And it's like, not yet, when the VT's on. And you just sort of sat with a towel shivering.
Ross was also in that Rumble, not
Yes,
in it, but he
Ross,
was
yeah,
part of
escorted
part of
Primate.
Primate's entrance.
Oh, that throw.
He had to throw a bin
Yeah,
to
throw a
Primate.
bin.
Nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely nailed it because it could have either gone
He
too
chest
short,
passed
too
it,
long.
right? Or
He
did he-
went
yeah.
kind of like that. He caught it. It was great.
It was a
Um,
real feel-good
he-
show, that was.
Ross
There's a
kissed
lot
him on
to
the
like
top of the
about
head
it.
for good luck on the way in. Yeah, it was great. It was, apart from the World Cup tour that we've already talked about, it was like the last big one that we were part of. There were other shows. There was obviously the rebrand. You were part of it for a little bit longer than we were.
I was there for one show because of the time we left. It wasn't really fair for like, and it was sort of like you couldn't really just train somebody to do that. So in that period of time, I did that first show, which was quite awkward because of obviously everything that happened, and then fans would see me. I tried to arrive early and stay behind the curtain. People would occasionally see me and be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then, and then they went on to be Defiant and
Which we
Strength
should
to
point
Strength
out was
and-
always the plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rebrand was always a plan.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
because we left.
They were
at
already
all.
planning to
Yeah.
change the name before we
Yeah, so that's worth mentioning.
But yeah, it is a shame to see the promotion close its doors. But I last night when I found out the news, I felt sad at first. I was like, oh, that's crap, because it was something we really were part of for about a year and a few months, which it feels longer. It feels like loads of stuff went on.
It aged us terribly. I was looking back at the videos.
But it was something we all poured our hearts and souls into. Not just us three. I mean, everyone involved.
Everybody involved.
Not just the wrestlers, like everyone, the whole crew and everything. And I remember last night feeling quite sad about it, and then people started sharing their memories of it, their photos. I actually felt quite happy because we did so many things that I'll never forget, and met so many people, made so many friends that I'll never forget
And
as well.
we were part of something that's had an impact on so many people.
Yes, it's great. Now, just before we finish, I want to do a lightning round,
Right.
where I go around and get your favorite
and quick.
things, nice and quick. So first of all, favorite match.
Me and the No Regrets Rump. No, Kirby Osprey one is
Right.
the obvious job. But I also really, really liked Will Drew from, I think it was Exit Wounds, where Will came out in Hitman attire. That
Yes.
was very, very cool.
So mine's a three-way tie between Osprey, Drew, the ladder match, and the cage delete.
I'll break the ties that you guys have done by saying Osprey Kirby won.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite one for what it did and the thing it set in place.
Nice. That's the winner. That's the best match ever.
Best ever in any promotion. Favorite show.
Refuse to Lose, the first one. I think it was a great mix of stuff. You had the silliness of the Blump match. You had the brilliant match in Kirby Connors before I ruined it. And then you had a great sports entertainment thing. And it was just the first one we'd done. It felt so special, and everyone worked their asses off. So that one.
Refused to Lose one, just entirely personal reasons, like being able to do that, and then the show was amazing, and
At least you...
until you ruined it for me.
Well, you ruined it, according to the tweets.
Well, that was it. I just, it was me snipping the internet wires.
For me, I'll go No Regrets because it was really feel good. I thought it was a lovely show. Loads of it was like an end of season thing. All the baby faces win.
If Refused to Lose was the sort of beginning of it taking off, I think like No Regrets was sort of the perfect, just like pin in it.
It was great. Favorite venue?
Germany, the beer was so
Really?
cheap.
Oh, nice.
The
Okay.
beer was
What's that?
great. Yeah, and
What's
I
that
just hid away a really nice German. I was drinking Pilsners
But they
that
had like
night. or-
Grolsch on draft for like
That was in Berlin,
nothing.
right?
Oh, it was
like-
one. No, it is the O2 actually. It's like Newcastle. That was home, wasn't it?
That was
and
home,
I'm
yeah.
not from Newcastle, obviously, but I love that venue, and the crowd were always hot and intimate.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a
There
bit
was
much.
just something always about walking through those doors at the academy. I just felt right. That was where we were supposed to be always,
Yeah.
and that was our.
And
home.
I enjoyed the shows, like the Bowlers. We did loads of shows in Manchester. We did loads of
Yeah.
shows at the Northumbria venue.
Bowlers,
but-
it's like a nice venue, but it's just a big warehouse. sort of.
Right,
It's
there's various
a bit
things
soulless
going there.
and like. But when you get the academy, it's just
The-
this old
man.
building and
it's for me and you at least. It's our home
sacred
music
ground,
venue.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, for me it's the Academy as well. That's the unanimous one. And favorite moment, not favorite moment of the show, like not favorite match or segment or whatever, but favorite moment involving you personally.
Okay, the obvious one is the heel turn. But actually, I'm going to go with the night after the heel turn, where I cut what was my favourite promo that I ever did. And I was really, really proud of it because I really worked on it and I practiced it a lot more than the other ones, that's for sure. So I came out and I was like, oh, okay. So everybody in the back now knows that I'm in charge. This is my company. So I know you guys are all pissed off. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to boo me. And then you've got to stop and you've got to start cheering me again because I really like being cheered. And so
you were the heel who didn't know that you were a heel.
I was the John Laurinaitis.
Yeah,
who I think is such an underrated heel.
Well, the whole
character.
idea was you'd sort of gone mad from the pressure.
Yeah. So they booed me for 10 seconds, and then, of course, they kept booing me. And so I was working through in my head, okay, what's the next thing? It's like, okay, so I've got a T-shirt here. It's a Pacitti Club T-shirt available from shop.whatculture.com. It's size XXXXL because, you know, wrestling fans. And then I do the thing like the Jeff Hardy Victory Road thing where I go, whoa, who wants it? And then I lobbed it in the rafters by accident.
It was it stuck. It was amazing.
And then I just started shouting, cheer me, cheer me, cheer me. And then Kirby chants were just going crazy at this point. And then the final bit of the promo was, okay, fine, I'll bring out the big guns, I'll do the catchphrase, you love it! And then Kirby's music hit, and I was really, really proud of it.
That was really good. I watched that, pissing myself. I
had a lot of fun.
I think with Dan's brother, with Dixon's brother, Ben.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we both really enjoyed that. Sam, what was your favourite moment personally?
So I was never really in front of camera, so a lot of mine just involve other people. Most of mine involve other people, but I think utterly personally, it was sort of the end of Refuse to Lose, knowing that it had, like, we'd done the show, and as far as I was aware, it had gone off without a hitch. But there's also there's knowing that Connors was coming out and waiting for that moment, and then when it happened and that it all hit, and just hearing that crowd, that was unbelievable. And then possibly the angle reveal when the crowd just didn't see that coming either.
That's
that
a
was
really
great.
good shout.
But
Mine would be, a lot of people would assume it would be like the Super Kick or the Matt Hardy stuff, but actually it's a much more forgotten moment, which is in the midst of the whole Pacitti Club heel stable thing. Before I'd left it, when I was still part of Pacitti Club, but I would like stand around reluctantly while you guys were cutting heel promos. And it was the night after Matt Hardy had bit my ear, so I'm head all bandaged and stuff, and I was out there just like, oh, this is crap. And people thought I was originally going to do like a Seth Rollins turn on you because you all lined up and I was just in the back corner like, oh. And they were like, I could hear people in the crowd being like, hit him, Jack, like, do it. And I was like, nah. And you sent me to the back. You're like, you don't deserve to be in the ring for this. Get to the back. And the Academy, man, like hometown venue and stuff, chanting Jack the Jobber. And the way that the Dixon is, because he's seen it all in wrestling, is that if you show any sign of being pleased for yourself or a mark for yourself, he'll like rinse you for it. So I got to the back just like hiding how pleased I was. And he was like, you're buzzing, aren't you? I was like, no, it's fine. But I was. And everyone in that venue made my day. But there was just so many moments that were great as well.
There's one last one, as you've said about the Academy, that stood out to me was after the Stunner Party with you at Built to Destroy 2. It was we knew we were going to do the new intro, and we needed some crowd shots, so we sort of just kept people around the ring, and we said we're just going to go around with the camera, and then it was like a moment where I just sort of stood when I was done. Just sort of stood on the stage and just saw how full the venue was. And it was just like, Jesus, like this is how.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think the big thing, as I mentioned briefly earlier, is that we were able to help guys who deserved the exposure that we gave them. I don't want to say like we gave them the exposure.
No, they did that entirely themselves.
They did. But I'm so thrilled that we were able to give them a platform to get them to the level they deserved.
Yeah.
I mean, you look, Kirby at the minute is in Japan with Dragon Gate. You know, so many of the guys have signed with WWE. There's people on the indie scene now, like just going places who I'm so glad we could help out on the way. And there's so many good things that came out of the promotion, but that's one of the best ones, I reckon. We helped give exposure to a scene that, because our audience weren't uber smarky ultra like type fans, and we might have helped introduce a whole new bunch of people to British wrestling.
We were the gateway drug.
We were the marijuana.
The entry level British wrestling
that's
promotion.
right.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and like I think we all want to thank everyone,
Yep.
like everyone at
absolutely.
WhatCulture, truly for letting us be a part of that. We learned a
Yep.
tremendous amount, and yeah, it was so much fun. And thanks to everyone who came to shows.
Yeah.
And we've talked for about 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
and I think that's a testament to how fond we are of our time there.
Yes.
Everybody assumes that we had like a rough time all the time. And it was very rare that happened.
Yeah.
Actually, like, we met a lot of great people,
Yeah.
made a lot of friends, learned a great deal. So thank you
Yep.
to who is no doubt watching this right now. Cheers, beer.
Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.